Well, hello, and welcome back to Ready Steady Play, everyone. It's time for Tsukuyumi Full Moon Down. That's right. It's a Kickstarter game, a board game, and we're gonna play it today. I'm gonna play it. You can all come and watch. It's a solo game, actually, that I'm playing today. I say it's a solo game. This is a very interesting game. So, if Hi, Difter. How you doing? Got some folks in chat here. So, hey, Haggers is here too. Hey, everybody. Thanks for stopping by, checking out the stream. So, I'm Mike. This is my channel, Ready Steady Play, and we're playing Tsukuyumi Full Moon Down. And if you don't know what this is, it is a territory control space game, and it's probably best played with, well, the core set plays 2 to 4 players. It's probably a 2 to 3 hour game. With the expansion after the Moonfall, which I do have, although I haven't got the box behind me because I left it over there. Oops. But it's a 4-player game. If you have the... This is an interesting thing. If you have the... So it's 2 Kickstarters. The original Kickstarter was standees, and then they did a second Kickstarter with these miniatures. But if you have the standee core set, you can play 2 to 5 in the core set. If you have the miniatures core set, you can play 2 to 4. But after the Moonfall expansion pack gives you up to 6 players no matter which set you have. And then you can get additional sets that give you more races and things like that, more factions to play as. So here's what I know of the story. And by the way, there are 2 rulebooks, and I've got all the rulebooks here because I'm likely to, at some point, need to reference them. But here's one of the rulebooks. This is actually the second rulebook. So it recommends you read the other first and then reference the codex. But the codex comes with comics, which detail all of this intricate lore of this world. And, oh boy, is the lore deep. There was a whole Kickstarter. I didn't even realize this, because it was in German. But there was an entire Kickstarter, which was just for a comic book, to tell more stories about this world. But here's what I know, okay? The moon crashed into Earth, and all the seas and oceans evaporated. And also then, it turned out that there was a white dragon called Tsukuyumi who lived in the moon, and he summoned an army of Oni, which are like Japanese demons that wanted to take over that world. And then various other events that took place that led to all these different factions kind of converging on this point, where now they all kind of want to capture the moon's power and the dragon's power. So now we're fighting over it. So it's a territory control game. That's a good summary. So in the core set, you've got these different races. In the expansions, there's like 9 different races, right? In the core set, you can play as the Cybersamurai, who I've got here. Actually, I should have got all this stuff out to show you guys. I'm so sorry. But I'm going to be these people, the Cybersamurai, who I think are pretty cool. Focus! But there are 4 factions in the core set. There is 2 more factions. So, like I said, core set has 4 factions in the standee version and 5 in the standee version, 4 in the miniatures version. After the Moonfall expansion adds an additional 1 or 2 factions, and then there's an additional 2 factions you can get as separate expansion boxes, plus a Kickstarter exclusive box, and I don't know if you can get that anymore, which is another faction. So there's 9 in total that were available at some point. But in the Hager says, hopefully the stream is less buggy than the Cybersamurai. Oh, Cyberpunk Samurai. Right, yes, we don't want to be the Cybersamurai to be as buggy as Cyberpunk on launch. But we are definitely less buggy than the Dark Seeds, who are giant mutant bugs. Hey, Eddie, thanks for joining in chat. So, here's the deal. The competitive game looks like you're gonna have this moon in the middle, and then you're gonna put out a bunch of tiles, and I've got a whole ton of tiles that I'm gonna randomize in a minute, and you're gonna put out all these different tiles that do different things all around it. And then, you know, in the competitive version of the game, you'll all have a little home tile. This is mine. And you'll converge on this central moon. There's actually lots of different scenarios you can play that you can set up. So it's got ways to randomize the board, or you can use their suggested setups like this. So lots of different ways to set up the board based on your player count, what kind of game you want to play, how much player interaction you want to have. But you're always going to have the Oni bunkering down here in the middle. However, in the competitive version, the players will take turns controlling the Oni. And so the active player will make decisions for the Oni on their turn, and sort of move the Oni around. So even though they're sort of a neutral faction that you can kind of use as a sort of speed bump for your enemy to try and get in the way and thwart their plans. In the solo mode, you're playing against the Oni. And the solo mode is actually a competitive mode. So the solo mode's actually a competitive mode, really. Sorry, what? A cooperative mode. The solo mode's a cooperative mode with one player. So you can play cooperatively with up to 5. I'm just playing on my own. And there are a few rules changes if you're playing with 1 or 2 in the cooperative mode. And then if you're playing with 3, 4, or 5. Here's the thing, okay? The game is pretty heavy. I think it's got a 3.8 something on Board Game Geek, which puts it in the realm of games like, trying to think of comparisons for people. See, if you know what that means, then you probably already kind of understand how complex the game is. If you don't understand Board Game Geek ratings, that's the person I'm trying to make a comparison for. But you probably don't know a whole lot of games, if you haven't come across Board Game Geek in the hobby, which is absolutely fine. I'd just like to compare it to something that you would know. Well, let's just say it's a hell of a lot more complicated than Risk. So, the deal is that you need to know a lot of the solo rules to play the cooperative version, but they do make some fundamental changes. And just to be clear as well, like, you can see this one box behind me, but this is one of about 7 or 8 boxes that came in the Kickstarter if you got them all. And I'm kind of a sucker for these kinds of games where they have... What really attracted me to this game is that it's got a sort of a core of fundamental rules, and then they're actually not too bad. They're quite interesting. I like the mechanisms of the fundamental rules. And what really intrigued me is how asymmetrical the factions are. I would say that if you have played Root, that's not a bad starting off point for a comparison. Because although Root involves dice, and one of the main selling points of Tsukuyumi is that it's completely deterministic, so there's no dice at all. In fact, the competitive mode boasts that there's very, very little luck. I think the only real luck in the competitive mode is based on these event cards, which are drafted by players, so a lot of the luck in this deck, in terms of card draw, is really mitigated. There's also a deck of action cards, which I'm sure I put out somewhere. Oh, come on. These action cards here, which you don't use in the cooperative version, but you do use in this competitive version. And in the competitive version. And wow, do we need some... Wow, what is with the exposure on this? Turn that down a bit, please. So anyway, the point is, these action cards, you know, they're drafting these in the competitive mode is really, really important. They pretty much determine what you're going to do over the course of a round. And so picking one is crucial. And you'll be dealt six? I think you're dealt six, and you pick one and pass them to your left. So, like, there's 4 rounds, and you're drafting one card each round and then passing the hands. Um, so there's some small element of luck about which 6 cards you'll get, but by and large, you'll probably get some that you like. Or you might want to draft some that you don't want the next player to get. But the deal is, in the competitive version, very little luck, hugely deterministic. The solo mode, or the cooperative mode, I should say, has a bit more luck. It introduces a bunch more decks of cards. There's a lot less way to mitigate the random chance in those decks of cards. But quite frankly, I think it would be extremely difficult to recreate the deterministic nature of the competitive mode in the solo mode without that. It also says in the rulebook, actually, which is really interesting, it says that the cooperative mode would be a good way to teach new players how to play, but I'm not entirely sure I agree, because there's quite a lot of rules overhead in this already, and what you're doing is you're essentially learning some of the competitive game, and then learning the changes for the cooperative version, and then if you want to go and play the competitive version, you have to, like, forget the changes, or, like, undo that in your head, which is confusing, and so I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to randomize some land tiles, and then maybe, if you like, I'll do a quick summary of how the game sort of functions in the competitive mode. But Hager says 3.7, I've played more complex. Yeah, I mean, me too, but, you know, it's not always about, I mean, I find, actually, the main challenge, especially with the Board Game Geek ratings, is the complexity due to rules overhead, like the sheer volume of rules, or does the complexity come in, for example, with the heuristics of the game? That is to say, how difficult is it to pick up and know what to do, you know? Like, some games are just baffling unless you've played them once, or someone tells you how to play, you know? In any case, we're going to randomize some land tiles. So, if you're playing the cooperative version, you're going to put out 7 land tiles per player. And you're going to place them randomly around the moon. If you're playing solo, like I am, you're going to put out 12 land tiles, 1 in each space adjacent to the moon. That's Tsukuyumi there. You can see his little tail poking out of the moon here. Oh, Difter, if Michael was learning this game, I think he'd be pretty scared. Alright, so I am instructed to also to include 1 fertile land tile. So if we don't get a fertile land tile, then we will just have to sub one in somewhere. Okay, so let's grab some more. So the orange side that you can see on the top-down camera is almost exclusively used with the Fireborn faction of dragons, who are one of the factions that come in one of the expansion boxes. So you probably won't be using that side if you don't have them, if you're not playing with them, with the exception of this guy here, who is in fact a little dragon Oni. I say a little dragon Oni, he's actually a big dragon Oni. I mean, the miniature's not huge, but in terms of the game's sort of scale, he's intended to be quite large. He will destroy these tiles as well if he comes out. But he's much more likely to come out in this solo version than in a competitive game. Pekka, yeah, the lore and the sort of the world are what really attracted me to this game. I thought it was really neat. So I like the wow, all just boring empty moon spaces. Cool. Ocean floor, actually. These tiles I'm putting out are all supposed to be the abandoned ocean floor. Let's see if we can find some more interesting tiles in here. God, I hope I haven't shuffled some in upside down and others in... I'm the idiot who does a riffle shuffle with an inverted shuffle with tiles. Okay, so yeah, the asymmetrical factions, they're incredibly distinct abilities. Oh, good, a Tsukuyumi tile. I found it all of that sort of really intriguing. Oh, come on. A radioactive tile. At least there's something interesting happening. We got a couple of unstable tiles. These are called unstable tiles as well. Hey, a fertile ground tile. At least we don't have to go looking for one of those. Okay. Interesting. So, there we go. So in the competitive game, you would then go around. You've got we got a tracker up here, which is used for initiative order, and a round counter here. The competitive game is 4 rounds, but they do suggest you can play with more or less. Let's have we can zoom in on this a little bit. I think there we go. So in the competitive game, you can play 3 for a short game, 5 for a long game. The recommended turn count is 4. I played one version of the solo game already, and I actually played 4 rounds, which is a long game for the solo. They actually say you should do 3. So we'll play 3 rounds on camera here, because I'm going to do a lot of explaining up front. But the solo game actually didn't take very long once I got the rules figured out. But we'll play 3 rounds for this one, I think. So there we go. But in the normal game, what you would have is you would have everyone's initiative counters out here, and they all start with a little number on them as well. And this tells you the sort of the starting initiative of your faction. So why can't we see? Oh, here we go. So come on. Oh. No. I don't know why my little camera isn't working here. Alright, there we go. So you can see a 1 there on the bottom of this tile. I know it's a bit hard to see out. But there's a 1 there, and so in fact, any game that you play with the Cybersamurai, they'll start up here on the top of the initiative track. And the game is 4 rounds, and the rounds are conducted with these action cards, which is really quite interesting. So each round is going to be 2 sort of main phases. What's called a white phase, where you're going to pick 2 actions from this side of the card, and then a series of colored phases where you're going to pick actions from this side of the card. Come on. I mean, I'd be better off holding it here. Colored phases from this side of the card, right? But what's interesting about this is, so like the first phase of the solo game, I'm actually going to have to get this player aid out here as well, because I've never played the solo game. I'm really excited to play it after having gone through the wow, the competitive game. God, sorry. I'm trying to explain the basics of the competitive game. So you've got this a basic round here, which is choose an action card. So that's where everyone's dealt 6. Each player chooses 1 and passes the action cards to the player on their left. And then you won't look at the deck of cards again until a whole round of play has taken place. And then those cards will be passed and picked again. So, or rather, you'll pick up the ones you're passed the last round and then play again. And most of the action points, there's actually ways to gain action points during the game, but a lot of your action points will come from endgame scoring, which is over here. What is going on with this camera today? I feel like this is worse than usual. Better or worse? In any case, you've got that's worse, isn't it? So you've got anyway. Here's the deal. Everyone picks an action card, and then we all play the action cards. And this is the back of the action card. It always looks the same. And so it always begins with this white phase here, where you'll pick two actions out of the selection here. And there's kind of like three different types of actions, blue, green, and red actions. And they always take place in that order. But in the white phase, the player at the top of the initiative track here will pick two actions they want to do, which can be a blue one, a green one, or one of these two red ones. And the blue one here is essentially interact with the event deck. You can draw cards off of the top of the event deck here, and you can either play them or put them into your hand. And everyone has an unlimited hand size of event cards that they can draw from. And there's always two face-up. So you either pick one of the two face-up cards, you pick one of the off the top of the deck, the mystery cards here. And these can be all kinds of things. So you've got stuff like produce units, move units around, trigger fights, even some stuff that lets you move tiles around and things like that. Sorry, the green screen camera is being really fussy today, but these cards do all kinds of different fun stuff. So they can be really, really valuable. So the blue actions tend to be to do with that, or they can also be to do with your unique faction effects here. Everyone has their own unique sort of special faction effects that they can trigger. Depending, and that'll be wildly different depending on who you are and what your sort of deal is. But that's the kind of the blue actions, and then the green actions, they tend to be focused around deploying units. So usually they give you production, which is a resource that you kind of have to spend all in one go to produce units. And when you produce units, you're producing them on tiles adjacent to your home space. So everyone deploys their home space, again following unique rules for their factions. So factions they don't all have different rules for their deployment of their home base, but they can be different. To put that out, and then you'll kind of get to put some territory markers as well. This is all at the start of the competitive game. And these you can see these red borders as well. They're called blockades, and typically they block stuff. So quite literally. So this is not adjacent to my home base here, because it's blocked by the blockade. So you can see that the way this has come out, there's quite a lot of blockades around the outside and things like that, which you'll have to take into account when you're moving around and stuff like that. But in the green phase, you will produce units and you'll deploy them onto the board. And then in the red phase, you'll typically be moving units around, and also you will be engaging in combats. And the combat in the game is really, really interesting, because essentially when you engage in a combat, you have these two every faction has two or more combat cards that they'll use. And so here, for example, I've got Annihilation and Conquest, which are the two basic cards that everyone has. And Annihilation allows you to destroy enemy troops through combat damage, and Conquest allows you to take control of areas, which is really interesting, because you're kind of making the choice between the two. Putting out Conquest lets you take control of areas by putting out these tokens, and also getting rid of your enemy's tokens and putting out your own, which is how you're going to score points at the end of the game. But, if it doesn't let you kill any of their troops. So you can choose Annihilation instead, but then you kill their troops and you don't get to put out the control marker. So you're choosing between points and killing troops. And the interesting thing as well about the way this kind of functions is that once you're done resolving the text at the top of the card, then your opponents all get to pick a counterattack from the number listed at the bottom. So it's all very deterministic, so you can kind of gain some insight into what kind of retaliation they're going to have, because it's all chosen from the combat card that you played. And your combat cards are all face up, and they're all public knowledge the whole game. So people know the kind of stuff that you can do, which I thought was a really interesting mechanism. And it's not something that we're going to use at all in this cooperative version. So that's kind of why I wanted to mention that. That's kind of like, the basics in a nutshell. There's a whole lot more going on, but I just don't want to bog this down with this huge sort of verbal diarrhea up front, because basically we're not really going to worry about a lot of that And a lot of the other stuff are going to become apparent as we play through this solo mode anyway. And I can point out the differences as we go, but we don't have to worry about this. And but the interesting thing about the this turn order, actually, before I sort of sign off on the final sort of thing here, is that the interesting thing about this turn order track is that as players go through their action cards, everybody does their white phase. So you go through the white phase and everybody does it in initiative order. And as you go through it, you flip your tokens over to show that you've sort of completed your phase. And then you'll go into the blue phase, and then you flip over your card and everyone does whatever is on the blue side of this card. So you'll all do your blue actions, and as you go through, you'll flip them back over to the other side. Then everybody does their green actions, and again you flip this over. And then everybody does their red actions, and again you flip this over. And so you've got all of these different things that you can potentially do, but you're all sort of going through, and everybody's doing sort of the sections of their cards simultaneously, and that's really interesting to me. I think it's really, really, really cool as a potential mechanism. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I'm really excited to try it out and see how it goes. And so you do that for 4 rounds, and then the game ends, and whoever has the most points is the winner. There's a scoring phase at the end of each round where you score mid-game points, mostly for goals. Every faction has their own unique goals. There's going to be faction sort of public mission cards that you can all contribute to and gain. So they're not like sort of first come first served, or they're not claimed, but there's these public missions and everyone has a chance to do them over the course of the game. When you claim that, you get some points. You'll also gain points for killing the neutral Oni faction in the competitive version, and various other things as well. Factions have all kinds of unique opportunities to gain points built into their different mechanisms, and they are hugely asymmetrical. Like, I can't really stress enough how asymmetrical the factions are. There's a lot of rules overhead that come from factions themselves that I just can't go into in this video, or else it's going to be way too long. And also, I just don't know them well enough. Like, I've only looked at 2 factions in any real detail, and I scanned some of the others. But you'll throw down your victory points here onto this victory point board, and you can keep track of them like that. And so these will be added at the end of the 4th round. You'll do a final scoring, and these will all be added together to determine your final score. It is encouraged as well during the intermediary scoring rounds to calculate your intermediary points, but also calculate what you've got on the table for final scoring as well, just to let everyone know what position you're in, so they can kind of gauge where the game's at and who's winning. That's in the rules as well, to let people know that. I know that that's kind of like a lot of just verbal diarrhea there. So does anyone have any questions about the solo game? And I'll do my best to answer them. I realize there's a lot there. There's all kinds of, like, we haven't even talked about troop statistics. There's each set of troops has these different statistics down here on the troop board here. So these are all going to be used for either fighting or conquest, and you'll see kind of how those work in the solo version here. So at least you'll have some idea how that works yourselves. But we actually don't really need to worry about any of this stuff here in the solo game. I'm just going to flip this over and use it for the terrain stats. We won't really even use a lot of those for this solo game either. But the scoring is all different for the solo game. Our Pawn ID says, I will be looking forward to the archive of this video. I've been interested in Tsukuyumi for a long time. Yeah, I was really intrigued by it. And a lot of what captured my attention was the sort of the lore and the world. And then I got so I went in on the second Kickstarter, because I actually looked at the first Kickstarter. And I think the reason I didn't get invested at the time was because in the first Kickstarter, that is, I wasn't sure about whether or not I was going to I wasn't sure about whether or not the game was going to be robust enough. I was really just kind of intrigued by the world. And so when they had the second Kickstarter, I was like, well, you know, this has obviously been successful enough, you know, and it was getting, the first set got positive feedback, so I thought better get involved. And I actually managed to pick up a review copy of the standee version of the first one as well. So I managed to have a look through that, and I always intended to get it played on the channel, but just never hit the table for one reason or another, so I'm really glad that we're getting a chance to explore it now. Emma4 says, hi! Is this the game that has the controversy about how crummy the components are and there's tons of errata? Yes. There are... I actually summarized this in a sort of a rundown, a big rundown I wrote on my Patreon page yesterday. But basically, there... So I guess I'd sort of summarize it like this. To sort of do it justice, I would say that there is... I've been through the errata so far, and I've been through all the components and everything. I think some people had issues with missing components, and some of it looked pretty bad. I didn't... I actually had one component missing, and it's a tile. You're supposed to have 13 of them. I had 12, so I didn't even bother contacting Grey Fox Games about it. Because I don't think it's going to be at all important in any point where I play the game. And having gone through all of the sort of the components and everything, there's so far nothing I've discovered that's game-breaking. You know, it's not like there's a deck of cards where you can clearly tell the difference between the backs of some of the cards, or, you know, like there's card types you have to shuffle together and they're different sizes. Nothing that drastic. There's nothing game-breaking. It's all entirely playable. Most of the issues are around, in my limited experience so far, have been around spelling mistakes, which is, you know, a shame, but it is what it is. And sort of quality of life, really. Like, you know, the core set, which I've got behind me here, it doesn't really have any kind of insert to speak of. So you can see here that everything is just... I bagged up everything. Like, this is a bag of modular expansions. Because, I mean... But, again, like, the thing is, like, there's an enormous amount of content in this box. And they don't really do any kind of... They don't really make any attempt to tell you what everything is. There's not a good component list anywhere. Or anything like that. A lot of the information I've got here was from people who assembled it themselves on BGG. And, I mean, they do give you these miniatures trays, so there's good inserts for the miniatures, just nothing for the components. And there's tons and tons of components, you know? So I've made these faction bags as well, so I can just hand these out to people. Just be like, here's your faction bag. And, you know, also, like, they had these deluxe versions of the components. So I don't know if you guys can see very clearly here, but these are hive tokens. For these are the dark seeds, the bugs, and they lay eggs everywhere. Whenever they die, they lay eggs, and they're just unstoppable. And they came out with these gray plastic versions of the eggs, which are just these tiny little tokens here, and they're just kind of crummy. Like, I'll just use these paper chits, I think they're much nicer. You know, maybe if you took the time out to paint them, they'd be okay, but, you know, I ain't doing that, because I'd rather paint other games anyway. And to be fair, like, all the models are in faction colors, and that's really nice, you know? I think the biggest hilarious one of these, so the Nomads have these guns here. You can see the gun chits here. And so they gave you plastic versions of all of those, I think, as a stretch goal. And they're just like this little pack of things like this. And you're going to put these out. You're going to put these out on the board and, like, expect to keep track of them somehow. Like, forget about it. They're way too small to be usable. And you just wouldn't see them. So, you know, I mean, the thing is, I wasn't, like, the stretch goal plastic tokens is not something I was particularly hung up on, you know. So it's not, it doesn't really bother me, but I can see why some people are getting upset, and I do sympathize, you know. Overall, it was a lot of work to get stuck into these. And, you know, there were some misprints on cards as well and things like that. But the only... I'm just having a look around to see if I have any of the good examples around, but I don't. So, anyway, we won't get too hung up on that. The point is it's playable, and there's nothing game-breaking in there. Although there was one rule that I really struggled to sort of fathom, and I think I've got it right, but I'm still not 100% sure I've got it right. There's certainly more issues, I think, with ambiguity, actually, in the solo mode, but, you know, or the cooperative mode. But I do think that's a bit more niche anyway, so I think a lot of... I think the people who backed this, they backed it as a... yeah, Haggers, I don't know why the green screen's having a bad day today. Sorry, guys. I don't know if it's all the white on these cards that it's struggling with. But anyway. But I think most people back this as a territory control war game, so they probably aren't too fussed about the futziness of the cooperative version. Having played through the cooperative version now, solo, I quite enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was fine. It took me a while to learn, and the rulebook didn't make it as easy as it could have, quite frankly. It's laid out in a very peculiar way. And there's a lot of questions I have, so I've just kind of assumed the answers based on what I think is the most sort of balanced and fun way to play, rather than, you know, trying to track down all of the technically correct answers. But there is one thing. There are, on some of the action cards, there are sort of movement and combat, and it's very sort of picky about the order in which you do movement and combat. And it specifically says that you cannot do movement after doing combat. And there's a lot of back and forth about whether or not you can... That's restricted to the red phase, because, of course, you can actually do combat in the white phase. It's one of the two different actions you can pick. So if you pick a combat action here, does that mean that you then can't do movement in the red phase? And there seems to be a lot of people who think that that's the case. But from what I can tell from the errata and the subsequent postings, the idea is that it's only a restriction where there's this little black arrow. So you can see there's a black arrow here pointing from movement to combat. So it's really only when you see that arrow, which only really appears in the red phase. So the idea is in the red phase, phase 4, you have to move first and then do your combat, but only if that arrow appears. But, you know, it's just kind of like... The thing is, there's lots of sort of like little bits like that in the rules. And so it's a lot to internalize, a lot to remember. And the game doesn't... The quality of life, I would say, is low. And what I mean by that is that, you know, it doesn't really do you any favors at all in helping you learn that. Which is a shame, because I think as a game like this should definitely, you know, do everything it can to help you get it to the table. All right, let's put some monsters on the board. Let's get on with the game. There's 3 different sizes of Oni. We're going to use Oni from both. So I did say this was going to be a Full Moon Down and After the Moonfall stream, which is the expansion. I said that in my Patreon, so we're doing the Patreon vote. The only thing we're using from Full Moon Down, from After the Moonfall, the expansion set, actually is a second tray of Oni. So you do need both trays of Oni, or it recommends you use both trays of Oni for the cooperative game. But that's it. And the reason for that is actually the expansion really only has 2 main additions to the game. It allows you to play with more people, and, well, it actually offers 2 different land types, but it says in the rulebook they aren't compatible with the solo mode anyway. So it offers instead an increased player count, which is irrelevant to our experience here, and 2 additional factions. The Kings of the Wild, I want to say, but I'm not sure if that's correct. And the Kampagruppe, the giant robot people, who are in the core set in the standee version. But we're not playing with either of those because I wanted to do the Cybersamurai. And also, Alessandro agreed with me. Bruce says, a bit too much plastic. Sometimes the standees are better for clarity. Yeah, I think that, I mean, one of the interesting things actually is there is one rules change between the standee version and the miniatures version. And it's to do with movement. So there's kind of this restriction that when you're moving units around the board, if you want to move through a territory containing enemies, in the standee version, you have to look at their... Now, I believe it's calculated using hit points. So in the standee version, you look at the hit points of the enemy units in the space, the hit points of your units, and if your units' hit points equal or exceed the enemies, you can move through the space freely. You can even actually move into the space and then split up if you want. However, if you're in the miniatures version, you actually don't use the hit points at all. You use the bases. So if the bases indicate a strength. So where you see the triangle bases, this unit has a strength of 1. Where you see circular bases, the strength is 2. And where you see the square base, the strength is 4. And so you total the strength. So now I'm strength 5 versus strength 8. And so I can't actually move through this land. However, I might have 2 movement actions, which would mean that I could move in here, resolve that movement action, and then later in another phase or with a separate movement action, move out again. So it's that's the way the sort of blocking works in this. That's the only rules change I could find between the miniatures and the miniatures version and the standee version. I think that so the standee version, I wish I had one of the standees to show you guys, but I don't. That was an oversight. But on the stand, I think I might have a picture of the standees in the rulebook. Maybe? No, I don't. Oh, yes, I do. Let's see if we can see this. So you can see the standees here in this example diagram here, and basically, well, I mean, you can sort of see them. Sorry once again about the green screen here being super bright. I don't know what's going on with it today, guys. It's not usually this bad. Is this better or worse if we go anyway. Anyway, the point is, you can see on the standee version, there's a bunch of stats along the top of the tile. So you'll have these little bases, and you can see the 3 statistics on the tile. In the miniatures version, you don't have that information, so you have to refer to these cards here. And they give you 5 of these cards, so you can hand them out to almost every player. If you're playing with 6 people, someone's not going to have one, but they can probably share. So you'll always be able to reference these cards, which have all the stats for the units at the bottom there. I think there's pros and cons to both. I don't really have too much of a preference, to be honest. So what we're doing right now is we're putting a medium Oni and a small Oni in each territory on the moon. So we're going to start with one small Oni and one medium Oni there as well, in each territory on the moon. And that's just a solo player thing. I think the setup for Oni is different in the competitive version, but I actually don't know what it is. I think it might vary depending on your scenario and your player count. So there we go. And we got our big Oni here as well, but we're not going to put any of those out right now. Hopefully we'll never put any out because they're tough and awful. Get out of here, big Oni! But the game, the miniature count, or the standee count, is very specific. If you run out of miniatures or standees, you cannot play any more of that unit. However, whenever anything is removed from the board or killed, it's just added back to the supply, and then you can pay to bring it back out again freely as you like. Martin says, I went all in and ditched the inserts to fit everything in the main box. I just bagged all the miniatures, kept 2 of the expansion faction boxes to protect the... what? The mini tires? Oh, and I painted everything. Oh, Martin, I think that they'd be really cool to paint. But I have so many miniatures to paint that I don't think I'll ever get around to all of these ones. I'd like to play the game first with other real people, and see if I like the competitive version. But I have a feeling I will. I suppose the question is really, I'm trying to think of sort of comparisons. Like, what would I compare this to? And the sort of off the top of my head, I think that it's quite comparable to Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea, which is, of course, the big Scott Almes game where it's the fantasy one. That's got a bit of base building to it, which this doesn't have. It's more of a 4X game. It's got an exploration component. This is much more of a war game. But the reason I make the comparison is because in that, you've got very asymmetrical factions and very deterministic combat, which this also has. And also the other comparison is Root, which feels more similar in the sense that it's a lot about territory control. I think and asymmetrical factions, but then the combat in Root has, I think, more luck involved, whereas this is entirely deterministic. So I don't know, maybe there's room for all three, or maybe I'll have to do a comparison and see which one I like best. I don't know. Right, so there's our starting Oni. We have to pick a starting place for our capital, our Otomo core here. See if we can get this camera set up somewhere you can see all the little. See as well. So this is our starting place. I like, one of the things I liked about the starting tile here actually is that it kind of reminds me of GLaDOS or Portal. You know, it looks like an evil GLaDOS. It's like, ha, for science. So the thing is, I'm trying to decide. So the Oni gain a lot of points if they can gain control of the territories that are adjacent to my homeland. And I can put this literally anywhere around the outside of the board. So I could put it somewhere like this. I mean, I wouldn't put it here because that's radioactive, but what I mean is adjacent to two tiles, which could have its advantages because then I can exit sort of, or I'll have two adjacent things I can deploy into. So I can deploy into either of these, which is good. But the disadvantage of this is that there's two for the Oni to conquer. Also, I wouldn't want to use the radioactive one because they're immune to radiation and I am not. I think I might have a unit that's immune to radiation. No, I'm thinking of the Sentinels. They're immune to radiation. One of the other factions that I was looking at playing, but I don't think you can play them in the solo mode because they don't really function like other factions. But if you end your round in this territory, you just die, unless you're Oni. So this is a very bad starting position. So I'm looking at these other starting positions here, and the thing is, I was looking at maybe here or here, but they're actually functionally the same. Because of this blockade, these are basically adjacent. So I'm thinking, if I'm only going to be next to one anyway, and the Oni, there are sort of times where you do ignore blockades. I'm thinking maybe this is actually going to be my starting location. We'll see how it goes. It might be a dreadful starting position, but we get to pop one of these out here, and we get to deploy all of our units in. So in the competitive version, you'll likely start next to two things, and I think you get to start with control tokens in 3 adjacent territories, and you can actually spread them as well. So interestingly, let's say these moon spaces are not moon spaces for the purposes of this description. If I was putting out these control tokens in the competitive version, I could sort of create a chain out from my base and deploy in any of these sort of adjacent spaces. And I could come up here and then go over there, or I could come up here like this, or even go around the corner like that. But what I couldn't do is go into here directly, or into here directly, because they're blocked, so they're actually not adjacent. So I couldn't get into this one at all, which is interesting. But in the solo mode, we just get one. So there we go. That's our starting position. We're going to put out some of these priority tokens as well. These help us determine what the Oni will prioritize. So we come over here. I've put one out in the central moon space. They're going to put one out in any spaces adjacent to my home zone, so we're going to have one in there. They also want to control these fertile lands locations. The fertile land locations are worth 2 points at the end of the game. So they're desirable positions to capture in the competitive mode. In the solo mode, they're worth 2 points to the Oni at the end of the game, and no points to me. And 1 point to me, so that's fine. They also like to control these radiation zones because I die if I go in there. I think that's it, but I feel like there should be more than 4 of these tokens. Let me just have a quick look. You can, it also says you can actually put more tiles out if you want to. You're kind of free to put out as many as you like. The more you place, the easier the game will get for you. But this is the recommended solo setup. We're playing on essentially normal difficulty on the normal variant. What's interesting though is actually, because I'm playing 3 rounds now, I'm pretty sure, like the end, so I played 4 rounds in the practice game, and the final score was 10 to me, 11 to the Oni. So it was very close. I almost won. I think an unlucky draw on the final round swung it, which is fine. Like, you know, that's what happens sometimes. But I think if it had ended at round 3, I probably would have lost. So there's that. Right, I was just checking setup for these priority tokens because I had a lot more, but I had a lot more fertile ground and stuff in the other game. So each area adjacent to the home zone / home marker. Okay, so this is my home. Oh yeah, home marker is for factions that don't have a home zone. The Lords of the Lost Sea, which are whales trying to reclaim the Lost Sea, which I presume is where all this water was and has now evaporated. And also the Sentinels, who use portals to teleport around. They look like ye olde portals. They're pretty cool. Radioactive areas, fertile areas, and the center of the moon. Fine. Martin says, I was so bored in the lockdown, I painted Eclipse Second Dawn, Twilight Imperium 4th Edition, and everything else. Oh my god, Martin, good job. Well done. I've been live streaming while I've been in lockdown. Also, I don't have any. I do have paints, actually. I have paints from about 20 years ago. But these days I just spring for the washed version of things. Okay, so that's our priority markers, all done and dusted. So, we got our Oni set up, we got all of this stuff set up. So, the very first thing we have to do, actually... Oh, this is one of my favorite sort of things about the game. You see this these cards here called the Oni Effect cards? They're referred to in some areas of the rulebook as Oni Turn cards. And I also saw them referred to somewhere as Oni Round cards. So they have 3 different names based on what text you're reading. And in the errata, it says, Oni Turn cards and Oni Effect cards are terms that are used interchangeably. They refer to the same deck, which is a sort of a fancy way of saying we misprinted and we don't want to admit it. Oh, thanks, Difter. I've enjoyed doing these streams very much. And I hope that the view from the table camera looks good, because I got a new fancy webcam for the table camera that will hopefully make things seem even clearer than they have seemed previously. And now we can do this, which is kind of fun. We can zoom in a bit with no actual loss of resolution. So that's kind of fun. And this is all thanks to the support of the Patreons. Thanks, guys. I thought it had been too long to. I've been trying to figure out a very fancy setup, so I decided to go with the easier setup for the streams because I've been doing a lot of streaming actually, and it seemed a bit daft not to spend a bit of money to improve this camera. So we got this one here. These are just our starting event cards. We've got change position. So it says, oh, come on, this camera today. Jeez. Well, the all that stuff at the top under where it says event is actually just flavor text anyway. This discovery of a storage depot has dramatically changed the supply status. You move your units to take advantage of this change. Move all your units one area. Fine. And we got stocking up here as well, which says buy units and upgrades with a value of 1. Cannot be combined with other production. Basically gain a free unit. That's fine too. Also, like this, so I've got this uplink mechanic here. I don't know if you guys spotted this little uplink deck, but now I'm going to pick 2 of these to start with. This is a Cybersamurai thing. So this is just something the Cybersamurai do. I start with this automatically, which is my Amaterasu AI uplink. This automatically activates every time I do production, so you can see it's kind of green. I mean, kind of see that here on the green screen. But it's in the production phase, I get to produce a little drone for free, and I've got 2 different kinds of drones. I got these little assault drones, and also little shield drones as well somewhere, and they just zip around. They're kind of fun. But we've got all these different uplinks, and so we can equip any of these different things, and they all do different stuff. They've all got special rules, and this is just something that the samurai do. And actually, what you can do over the course of the game, whether you're in the solo or the competitive version, is equip more and more of these, and sort of essentially becoming increasingly powerful. But they all cost production. You can see they all have a production cost here on the side, and so, you know, if I'm increasing sort of my upgrades, if I'm upgrading my power here, then I am not spending the points on building units. So that's a key decision you're going to be making as the Cybersamurai. We've also got this modification card, which it changes our special rules. The bottom one is so key. Like, it says here, your units cannot be replaced by Oni units. Ignore the counterattack of the Moon Princess. So here's the deal with the Moon Princess. We're actually going to put her out now. I'm going to deploy her here. I can deploy her anywhere I want along the purple border of the moon. And essentially, she's just going to walk around this purple border, and she affects the 3 areas adjacent to her and does horrible things. I'm putting her over here because I don't want her to get up in my face yet, but she does have some cards where she just literally moves until she's adjacent to your troops. So she could very well just go here in the first round. We don't know. We'll see. But her counterattack is brutal. She just kills half your units, and you have to replace them with Oni if you are anyone but me, a Cybersamurai. I guess because I'm robots, and that's why she can't do that to me. I imagine this would be really, really difficult for Darkseid. Their whole thing is having a ton of bugs. But maybe there's some other kind of modification that makes them competitive. When I first read the rules for all of this, I was like, there's no way you could win this solo mode. It seems outrageously difficult. But actually, I found my first game, to be very close and well balanced. So I think it's just one of those games where it's like, you know, because everything's so asymmetrical, you're just kind of like, oh my god, this is incredibly overpowered. And then you just realize everything's overpowered, and so nothing's overpowered, right? It's that kind of thing. So in any case, I'm immune to her counterattack, which is awesome. My Tetsuo Space Laser causes 20 damage in this version of the game instead of 10, and I have a rocket attack which can actually prevent Oni from entering the area where they are... from preventing the area where I put the rocket attack token. So these, the Tetsuo and the rocket attack are both uplinks that prove very, very valuable in the other version of the game I played. I also took Bushido in the solo, the previous one, Bushido allows me to select 2 different counterattacks whenever I do a counterattack, which is awesome. I really like all of these cards, and I'm really not sure. I started with Tetsuo Orbital Laser and Bushido last time, very successfully. But one of the ones I really also like is this one called Shogun Sub AI. So, this says whenever you play an event, you may play an additional event. So you can play 2 event cards for the price of 1, which is pretty awesome. Although it doesn't give you extra draw, so you might not have the cards to play. But it also gives you access to the Shogun special unit, which I think would have been really useful. So all of the special units are here on this card. You can see them along the bottom there. I wonder actually if maybe here or just over here. No, I don't know if that's any clearer, but in any case, all the units are here, and they've got little production costs here as well. So you can see I've got like the 2 drones and the 2 samurai here. They all cost 1 production, and then I've got my Shogun and Cyberoid, and they cost 2 each. There's the Cyberoid up there, and the Shogun, who's just better. But I need to take that upgrade to gain him. There's only 1 Shogun miniature as well. So I think I'm gonna start with the Tetsuo Orbital Laser, because it's just really good for clearing out some of the Oni that we see on the board at the start. And what they're going to do basically is they're going to start spreading out and just capturing territories, and I'm basically going to run around the board trying to stop them, essentially. I don't get really any benefit from killing them. There is this whole function actually where at the end of the game, oh come on. So at the end of you know, so at the end of the game, this is the player scoring at the end of the game, and here's the Moon Princess scoring. So I'm going to get a point for each area that I conquer, which is basically just each area I get to put a token out into. I'm going to get an additional point if that area is the center of the moon here. I'm going to get 3 points if there's less than 15 Oni miniatures on the board at the end of the game, which is really unlikely. And I'm going to get X points for turn goals, which I will explain in due course. Note that the Moon Princess here, she actually captures all 3 of the territories around her, essentially nullifying them, which is... she like overrules my tokens. So potentially I want to take her off the board. It is possible to kill her, but she comes back at the beginning of every round. So killing her really only has the effect of removing her for the rest of that round. Although she's not too hard to kill. But it's not always necessarily a good use of your resources. So they're going to gain points at the end of the round if they have 4 areas under their control, 2 points if they control 4 areas. One thing I was a little ambiguous about was whether or not this includes Tsukuyumi areas, which are the ones with this symbol, but I don't think it does. I think it explicitly means ones where they've put down a territory control token. They're also going to gain points for the legendary Oni they have in play. So we've got a whole deck of legendary Oni, which refer to these special Oni out over here, and they all have special rules, and they're going to come out. There's also this big whale who's a special Oni as well, and he's so big he takes over the whole tile. And then we got they're going to get points for the actual value of the area. So like I said earlier, these fertile lands are worth 2 points if you control them. In the solo mode, they're worth 1 point, just like every other tile is for me as a player. But these tiles are not actually worth anything to the Oni. They're only worth something if they put them over the number they need to control, or if they take them away from me. So obviously that's a swing of a point in their favor. And additionally, of course, these ones are worth 2 points to the Oni. They also get plus 2 points if the area is adjacent to my home. So basically, if they control this one, they get 2 points for that. And finally, they've also got this momentum track here. And if this little token here gets all the way to the end, then they're going to get 3 points for that. And honestly, like, I was trying to like manage this momentum token in my other game, this momentum track, and it's impossible. I mean, they're going to get up here. Quite frankly, when they do get up here, it's somewhat of a relief because they can't go up the track any further. This is the 2-player one you see down here. There's different lengths of track based on the players. But every time I do a combat, this token moves up like 1 or 2 spaces, and every time it lands on these purple spaces, they draw these horrible counter cards, and then every time it lands on these spaces here, they draw legendary Oni. So, like, I think the only reason not to just mash it all right at the start is that these things are all bad. So if I can stop them all coming out really, really quickly, that's enormously helpful. But I don't know how you would stop it getting onto this 3. You can move it back, which you will have to do a few times, because when you move it back from a purple space, you can take one of those purple cards away, which is really important. And if you move it off the 3 points, then that's a swing of 3 points. But the only way to do... Well, I'll explain how to do it in due course, but it's not easy to do. I'm trying to decide whether to read chat's comments aloud. They're essentially asking if the Moon Princess funds her war efforts through her OnlyFans. There, I said it. Are you pleased? Okay, so I think I'm going to start with Bushido. The reason I'm tempted to start with Shogun AI is it's a more expensive card, but I think I'm going to start with Bushido because having those 2 counters is really, really valuable because it's sort of, it just makes it more efficient. It allows me to essentially respond to what the Oni are doing more effectively. So fingers crossed that pays off. We shall see. All right. So now we're essentially ready to start the game. If you are playing this cooperative mode with more players, every player gets a number of these action cards. Just like in this competitive version, you keep 1, pass the rest to the next player who puts them to one side, and will draft one from the ones you've handed over next round. However, if you're playing the solo or 2-player mode, you get 3, you pick 1, and discard the other 2. Next round, you'll draw 3 new ones. So, the backs are all the same. This is called the white phase, just like in the competitive version, but it's handled a little differently in the solo version. But the other side is different. Instead of having the 3 colored phases, it has what's called the black phase. So I'm just going to have a quick look here and see what we got. You can still, of course, move up and down the initiative track. So you can see here the top symbol there says move up or down 1 space on the initiative track. Completely irrelevant in this game. I'm the only one on the initiative track. But it could be important if I was with my colleagues. I believe you can discuss these freely. There's nothing in the rulebook that says you can't sort of be like, hey, I could really use being higher up on the initiative track or whatever. In the competitive game, actually, at the endgame scoring, you get 2 points for being in first position and a point for being in second position, and then there's no points for being later on. But that scoring doesn't happen in the solo mode anyway, so... Really, I've only set this board up because I could use it for demonstrating purposes and keep track of the rounds with it. There's also a use your faction effect here, but my faction effect actually is to trigger one of my uplinks that lets me trigger further uplinks. So my faction effect is a whole sort of cascade of uplinks. Because I haven't built any of those uplinks, my faction effect currently has no effect. Produce upgrades and units up to a value of 5 production. That's very good. 1 movement and 1 combat action. So I like this one a lot because it's got a lot of production on it. And that helps me get a bunch of units out at the start. We got one here that says, special rule, each player may immediately draw 1 action card and add it to the selection. So this would actually happen Afterwards, each player whose turn it hasn't been yet this phase may switch their chosen action card for one from their hand and play it this round instead. I feel like this would be a lot more beneficial in a cooperative game. Let's see if I can find a card I just like in this hand, and then I don't need to worry about this. Okay, what we got here? Special rule. All players may ignore the property massive this round. So massive is a... there we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? Massive is a trait that some creatures have. I think it's most common to the Lords of the Sea, who are all giant whales. But massive means that no matter how far you're... So you can see actually at the bottom of this card, there's a move and then combat with an arrow. And actually, interestingly, this one has move and no combat. So in this case, you would have to move one space and then do 2 combat actions. Or you could just do the combat actions, but then you wouldn't get any movement. Whereas here, you could actually do the 3 combats and then move afterwards, because there's no arrow linking them. Although it should be noted that if you do start doing the 3 combats, you have to resolve all 3 combats before moving on to another action. So we got move each of your figures 1 space. So the faction effect again is irrelevant. I do like draw and play up to 2 event cards. That's good. That's a blue action. Hard to tell on the green screen. But it's got no production on it at all. And also, I don't have any massive units. So massive units can only move 1 space. Basically, that's their thing. They're just really slow. So you could get your massive units moving around quickly. So I think we'll take this one. It's just got a bunch of good stuff on it. And it's got a ton of production as well, which is nice. The first 2 blue things are useless, but never mind. So we put the action card here. Discard the other 2. And then we're going to draw an Oni effect card. So this is the order of the round here. Choose an action card, reveal the turn card, also known as the Oni effect card, then execute the white phase, then the black phase, then score the turn goal. So I shall now walk you through this. So here on the Oni effect card, we're going to see a bunch of stuff that happens and also what the turn goal is. The turn goals are how I got most of my points in the previous game, so we definitely want to do that. Pekka says, oh, Pekka, thank you so much for the donation. That's really, really kind. I totally appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, that's so sweet of you. Pekka, of course, if you have any questions or you want to stop and ask a question, please do just throw it up in chat and I will get to it and I will answer it as best I can. And yeah, there's a lot. It's, as I said, the game itself is already complex enough. And then the solo mode is an additional layer of complexity. It's like, you know, we're going to take all of that other stuff and then add this AI. And there are certain elements that are simplified. And they even say in the rulebook, they think the cooperative mode, I said this already, but the cooperative mode is a good learning tool because some of the elements of the game are simplified. But I entirely disagree. It's only a good learning tool if you're playing with people that are going to really, really struggle with playing a very competitive game they don't understand. But I think it would be far better to just learn the main game. If that's what you want to play, then it'd be far better to like even just play a couple rounds of it and then reset the board if you know, if that's what people want to do, if they want to sort of have a good competitive first experience with somebody who already knows how to play roughly. Because there's so many minor nuanced rules that change in this, and having to learn all of that and then unlearn it for the competitive one would be a lot, I think. But in any case, have no fear. We will. I think once we sort of kick off, it'll all be fairly clear. I hope. So this is our first card: Play of Power effect. If they only have at least 10 units on the board at the end of this round, they immediately receive 2 victory points. Oh, that's not good. How many have they got now? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. I need to kill 5? I don't think that's going to happen. I need to kill 6. Ooh. Place as many of the largest Oni as there are players in different areas with a... Now they're putting out another one. Then draw a Moon Princess card and execute it. If necessary, place the Moon Princess beforehand. Wow, they're just going to get 2 points straight up, and there's like nothing I can do about it. At the end of this round, they only control no area adjacent to the home zone. Well, at least the round goal should be fairly straightforward. I only have one area adjacent to the home zone, so I have to just stop them taking control of that. Alright, so the first thing that they're going to do is place as many of the largest available Oni as there are players, so one large Oni, in different areas with an Oni territory marker. Well, now here we run into our first ambiguity, because there are no Oni territory markers on the board currently. That's these guys. These are the territory markers. There might be a case to argue that the Tsukuyumi symbol, which is on some of these tiles, including all of the moon tiles, is a territory marker, but it's not. So, the question is, do I place any of the largest available Oni? I'm going to say no, because there are no territories I can place them in. That's my ruling. But then we draw and carry out a Moon Princess card. So these are the Moon Princess's AI cards. These govern her behavior. Oh, actually, I shall leave this face up here so to remind me of the goal for the round. Okay. So, make room! Move the Moon Princess counterclockwise around the moon. She stops in the first area with the player's units. Okay, so she's going counterclockwise, which means Widdershins. So she's going to go... Like I said earlier, she can just go all the way around the board. So here we go. Here's a view of the Moon Princess coming to assail me. And my little fortress over here. Now so it says all the player's units in areas adjacent to her must immediately retreat 2 areas in the direction of their own home zone. Ignore blockades. If a player cannot retreat at least 1 area, place the largest available Oni in their area. So I believe I can actually retreat onto my home zone back here. So I guess that's what happens. I'm not 100% sure. I know that in the competitive mode, if there's no legal deployment zones for you, you can always deploy in your home zone. So I presume that you can also exist on your home zone tile. And then that's her card done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to begin. So that's resolved the Oni effect card, and we're keeping it in play because the effect, the business about having 10 Oni units, and the round goal both are going to remain in effect for the rest of this round. But now we're going to start the player phases. And so the first thing that happens after resolving the turn card is the white phase, which is this top part of the action card I picked, and then the black phase, which is the backside, happens afterwards. So we're going to start with the top card, and the very first thing that happens is you resolve 1 Moon Princess action. So we're going to draw another Moon Princess card. Conquest! Move the Moon Princess counterclockwise around the moon. She stops as soon as she stands in at least 2 non-moon areas without Oni territory markers. So they always move at least 1 space. So she's going to move to here and then stop. Now we've got 2 areas without Oni territory markers. I can see what's happening here and I don't like it. The Moon Princess and all Oni in areas adjacent to her execute Oni attack orders. Okay, so we're going to reference this card over here, which is the only combat card that belonged to the Oni in the solo mode. Now, there is an Oni combat card that is used in the competitive mode that is entirely different to this. Remember fundamentally when I talked about the combat cards, you have a number of them. So I've got 3 actually as the Cybersamurai, not many. Most have 4. This is my unique one called Target Acquisition. We'll look at that a bit later. The most important thing to note is that every faction has Conquest and Annihilation. Conquest lets you put out your territory control markers, but it doesn't kill enemy units. Annihilation has the opposite effect. It kills enemy units, but doesn't take control of the territory. So you're always making that decision about which one you want to do. Then the variations are doing various different things. But I think there's only like 2 combat cards in the whole game that allow you to do both Conquest and Annihilation in a single moment that belong to player factions. In the competitive game, the Oni don't actually ever use Annihilation actions. They only ever use Conquest and capture zones. However, in the solo mode, the opposite is true. The Oni only ever do both Annihilation and Conquest. So, they're going to kill enemy units and take control of the territory. Jerks. I'm going to flip this over, because on the back here, what I've got is the attack priority of the Oni here. So this is going to help me to remember how they prioritize different things. But essentially, here's how it works in a nutshell. When the Oni attack, they're going to look for, first off, areas where they don't have their own territory markers. Basically, if they have a territory marker, they're going to ignore the area. Fine. They're all about conquest. They're all about expanding. They want to own stuff. They're going to then look for areas on the moon with my territory markers. They don't like that. It's their moon. They want to keep it. They're trying to protect their white dragon master. Still kind of sleeping in the moon. And then they're going to look for also areas where they have at least as many conquest points as me. So if you remember, didn't I put these out somewhere? Yeah, I put these out here actually. So. When the time was right. So let's focus, see if we can focus on this. But you can see that, you can kind of see that each unit has 3 stats. And this is not the best view. It's undo that one, and we'll just try to bring these up here like this. Okie dokie. So you can see here that we've got 3 stats on each unit. A little triangle, and then a heart, and then an upside down heart. And those are referred to as conquest points, health points, and damage. So the damage on the far right is what you're going to calculate to kill enemy units, and you're going to compare it to their health. And then when we're doing conquest, we're only paying attention to the conquest points. Whoever has the equal to or greater conquest points can do a conquest. If you have fewer conquest points, then the enemy's in the same territory, you can't do a conquest. So in this case, the Oni are going to ignore areas where they don't have as many conquest points available as I do, because they can't conquest it. Oh, hey, thanks, Stifter. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's maybe a bit more we can do with it, but for now, I just felt like it would capture the table a lot clearer, and I do feel like the image of the table is clearer now than it was on the previous camera. And you know, the little zoom in function is good too. Okay, so right, so that's what they're looking for basically. They're looking for areas on the moon that I control. Ooh, sugar. Areas on the moon that I control, areas they don't control, and areas where they can take control if they have as many conquest points as me. Their second thing they want to do is like not move. So if they can take control of stuff without moving, that's their preference. Then they're going to look for areas where they have to move the fewest Oni, the least number of spaces. So it's quite a good system actually, because once you get a bit used to it, it's quite easy to eyeball, which I was a little worried about. When I was reading the rules, it felt really complicated, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to parse this every round, and it's going to be dreadful. But it actually wasn't too bad. And then they're going to later, if there's still sort of multiple options after we've gone through all of that, they're going to look for these little priority tokens. And then after that, I just get to choose if they have multiple options. And then there's sort of little ways of resolving things based on whether or not I have units present or I don't have units present. So that's good. So in this case, what we're doing here is we are doing an Oni attack. So now I said that she did she move yet? She moved all the way around to here, didn't she? Right, and then she moved one space down to here, because now she's adjacent to two non-moon sections without Oni territory markers. And what she's going to do is she's going to trigger the Oni attack in all three adjacent areas. Okay? So what we're going to do is I think we're going to start by um, essentially, so the Oni are going to like ignore these areas here. So this area we basically don't have to resolve because it's on the moon. The Oni, it's kind of funny really because it seems like the Oni don't conquest on the moon. Um, this was one of the ones I was finding a bit ambiguous actually. Maybe they do. I think I'm getting confused between the competitive and solo mode rules because in the competitive mode, the Oni essentially ignore areas with this Tsukuyumi symbol on it. Um, they just don't care about them. Whereas on the in the cooperative mode, maybe it could be more important. It's only really important though for this scoring condition where they have to control a number of areas because they don't get, unlike the player gets points for every one of these they put out. The Oni only get points if it's a fertile ground and if it tips them over the top the number. They need to get 4 basically. Get control of 4. So I think if I parse this correctly, an Oni attack here is basically not going to take place. But what we are going to see is Oni attacks here and here. And they're going to try to take control of these areas with the fewest number of troops that move the fewest distance. In this case, we're going to have one Oni moving into here, putting out a territory control symbol, and another one moving into here, and they get to kick mine out and put out their own symbol there. And I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. And if I'm wrong, then I apologize. And leave a comment down below. We'll fix it in the future. Not in this stream, because it will be over. That wizard came from the moon! Okay. So, I mean, still not off to a good start. I did say that I didn't see how they were going to take control of this, and now they're taking control of it, so. That's fine. I mean, I've only got one attack action this round, and I really was hoping to do more than just take back the one thing I already owned, but oh well. Sometimes it's like that, you know. So let's see. Now that's the Oh, I do have an attack action in the white phase. So that's the resolution of the white phase. Anyway, that's the resolution of the Moon Princess in the white phase. And now I'm going to go ahead and choose 2 different actions from this list. And I can choose any 2 actions and do them in any order that I want. So I could move all of my troops back into here and conquest this back, which is very tempting. However, I can see a fight occurring. Oh, God, the damn Moon Princess is there too. So now's a good time to also take a look at the black actions. So, as you can see, the black phase always begins with the Oni executing 2 more Oni attack actions. So that's going to happen. So that's going to happen no matter what, which is fine. I think that they're probably, if I'm not mistaken, they're probably going to come in here and take control of this. And then pretty much any of these other outside territories as well. And I can decide sort of which ones they'll take control of. So, let's have a think here. I'm going to produce a lot more troops. So, do you know what? I think the actual bigger problem I've got here is that I need to get my guys back out of there. I'm thinking about... I'm also thinking about the Moon Princess. She's got some pretty formidable stats on her. She's 35 across the board. We don't need to worry about these special rules. Those are if you're using her in the competitive mode. Okay. So, let's do a move action first. No, let's actually produce first. So I'm going to produce, and I'm going to produce the rocket attack. So this costs one, so I get one production, and this lets me produce, this lets me place a rocket attack token in the red phase, which essentially it's just like a nope token. So I got this little rocket attack token. It also came with a plastic version of it, but it's okay. I imagine Martin's look good because he painted them, but mine don't. Well, my plastic ones don't, so we're going to use this token. And I'm just going to put this out in an area and be like, this is nope. No Oni coming in or going out, basically. So I'm going to produce rocket attack, and that's it. I don't get to trigger the Amaterasu's AI because that happens in the green phase, which this is not. This is a little confusing because these cards all refer to colored phases that are now missing from the solo version, and there's no clarification in the rules when these could actually be triggered, because in the normal game you have, you know, the white phase followed by the blue phase, then the green phase, then the red phase, and these trigger in the green and red phases respectively. However, I assume that within the black phase they trigger sort of in the same windows as those different colored actions. The reason this is so significantly different from the competitive version is that, as I described earlier, in the competitive version, what you do is every player does their white phase, then every player does their blue phase, then every player does their green phase, and then every player does their red phase in initiative order every time. And of course, that might even change in the course of a single round, because in the blue phase you can affect the order of initiative, which means the green phase might actually happen in a different order to the previous blue phase and white phase. In the solo mode and cooperative mode, it works differently. Players all resolve their white phase, so that means the Moon Princess goes, and then the player in the first initiative slot does their white phase. Then the Moon Princess goes again, then the next player goes with their white phase. Then the Moon Princess goes again, and then the next player goes with their white phase. So on until everyone's gone. Then the black phase takes place. The Oni attack twice, and then the player plays. And then the Oni attack twice, and then the player plays. And then the Oni attack twice, and then the player plays. Of course, because I'm here on my own, I'm just doing both phases directly. So, anyway, there's my rocket attack token. We're going to make good use of that. And then my final action will be to move all of these people in here. I can move all of my miniatures on the board up to one area. So, that could be anyone, anywhere can move one area, but obviously this is all I've got going on at the moment. So, there we go. We're escaping. We're branching out into the world. We're getting out there. Grand. And now, that's it. That's our white phase all over. So we're going to go ahead and do the black phase. So that begins with the Oni executing 2 attacks. And so the first attack, they're looking for squares where they don't have territory markers, or moon spaces where I have territory markers, or they're looking for the areas where they can match me for conquest points, which is fine. So Oh, and now the one thing I have to bear in mind is the Moon Princess is there, so they have 40 conquest points in that area. So I need to make sure at the end of this round I have 40 conquest points in there, or else it's going to get really problematic. Hey, Alessandra! Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining. Look, we got some Cybersamurai. I like the Cyberoid. He's pretty cool. Focus. So that's I really like the Shogun as well. Actually, basically the big miniatures that I have. I say big; they're not that big. There's the giant robe. There's a sort of a mecha team as well, which is pretty big. I actually don't know if they're all mecha on that team. I think some of them are mecha. They're robots designed to hunt dragons, which are the Fireborn. And also, but none of the Fireborn are as big as Tsukuyumi, whose sort of side we can see here in the moon, and that's it. It's a shame they didn't make like a big Tsukuyumi miniature you could just put out and it would have all kinds of cool effects. But never mind. Chris, sorry, what's that going over? Oh, Diff just comment. Right, so, while chat clarifies what they're talking about for me, I'm going to go ahead and do these attacks. Right, this guy goes into here. I think they're going to prioritize this space because it's the only space of all their spaces that they're interested in with a priority token. So he's going to come in here, and then he's going to do an attack. And so two things happen here. Oh, actually, bear with me. I was not in this space when he did a conquest. I'd made a gaffe. So basically, here's the deal. If they do a conquest, or if they do an Oni attack action in a space with no Oni, like my space was empty at the beginning, what they're going to do is they're going to also poop out one of the weakest Oni. So there should be a little weak Oni in there. And now this guy's going to take control of this area here, and also he's going to poop out another little weak Oni in here. So that's just great. And then they're going to do one more attack, and this is player's choice because basically they're sort of equally interested in all of these ones around the edge. So I think it's probably... These blockades are actually really annoying. Mostly for me. They're mostly annoying for me. I think it's probably going to be this one here. Because then I can go down there and there's at least some profit to be had. So he'll also take control of this territory here. And it's going to poop out a little Oni there as well. Great. I forgot that used to happen, yeah. Chat's just remarking that when we used to film in person, occasionally it'd be like, whose turn is it? Is it my turn? Chris is like, no, I haven't had my turn yet. Damn it. That would be a fun Patreon vote, wouldn't it? What's the first game we should play when we're all able to film in person again? Alright, so we've done their two Oni attacks. Now it's me. So the first two sections of my action card here are basically pointless. Move up or down the initiative order, use your faction effect. But now I can produce units and upgrades up to a value of 5. So these can be deployed adjacent to my starting zone, so I can plop them down in here. And additionally, I can add an extra shield drone or attack drone because of my Amaterasu AI. So maybe we'll take a little shield drone there or an attack drone. That symbol at the bottom means they're flying, which means they can actually pass over these blockades, which is super useful. Maybe we'll grab some attack drones. I'm trying to think if there's another uplink I want. I didn't actually create all that many uplinks in the techno sub AI could be really useful. This is actually basically this would allow me to utilize it would allow me to utilize the Tetsuo Kaneda or rocket attack, and I don't have, and you know, if you've spotted the Akira references there, I mean, they're not exactly subtle, but I don't have the Kaneda at the moment. I do have the Tetsuo orbital rocket and the orbital laser and the rocket attack as well. And these actually double them basically, but I can only use them as a faction power. So this would have made better use of the action card I just played, but 2 is quite a heavy cost. So I'll think about that. What I'd love to have is another Cyboid. Actually, uh-oh. I need to get my little tray here. Come up here, tray. Okay, so he's 2 production. We can have a free drone, so let's take an attack drone. Although shield drones actually have 5 conquest points. That's 3 right there. We can take a shield drone as well. Now that's a total of 4 right there. But one of these guys was free, so that's a total of 3. So we could grab the Techno Sub AI, or we could grab 2 more Samurai, which would be pretty cool. I actually have 2 Samurai, and they both cost the same. But the Samurai 1.1, which is the one with the sword, and 1.2, which is the one with the sword and the fan, or the one with the 2 swords is 2.1. The one with the sword and the fan is 2.2. And 2.2 is actually stronger. They both cost the same price, but I have fewer 2.2 models, which I think is kind of a neat little restriction there. So, I mean, we would obviously at this stage want to buy 2 2.1s because 2.2s, because why wouldn't we want to just bring out the more powerful ones if we have the models available, right? So, what do you guys think? Techno Sub AI or 2 more Samurais? I'm quite tempted by the miniatures, really, but the earlier I make the Techno Sub AI, the more useful it's going to be. I've already missed one opportunity to use it. Just having a little break here while I think about my maneuvering here on the board as well. It's still really deterministic, this game, which is interesting. I'm hoping, though, if we're only doing 3 rounds, I might actually be able to get away with not triggering so much Oni momentum that they get those 3 points at the end, which would be really great, because 3 points is a huge swing. Like I said, in the 4-round game, the final score was 10 and 11. So, Egger says, build the AI! Alright then, we're doing it. We're making the AI. Here's hoping that's the right choice. So, we can install the Techno Sub AI in here. This essentially allows us to trigger an additional rocket attack. So we get out our second rocket attack token, which is used for the AI. And also we can now use the orbital laser twice as well. Note that we do have to choose when we trigger the AI. If we trigger it once, or if it says if you do your faction effect, we choose either the rocket attack or the orbital laser. But I am going to have a chance to use the orbital laser now, so I can show you how that works. Okay, so I'll make some more Samurai a bit later. The reason I'm making the assault droid is because I want to fly them over here and take control of this territory, basically. Because I get to deploy these guys, and I can deploy them straight in here. And we're getting the Cyboids because they're big and cool and scary, and they have 2 swords. Alright. So, our next action here... I have somewhere where I can balance this tray of miniatures without it turning into a disaster. I really don't. Bummer. Maybe they can live over there. Is that, well, anyway. Yes, so we've produced our units and upgrades, so now we're heading into the red phase. What we can do with the red phase is move 1, which means every unit can move a space, and then we can do 1 combat. And furthermore, we can trigger our Tetsuo orbital laser and our rocket attack. And we can do these things in any order, however we want. Now, what is interesting as well... Oh god, I just put these guys on top of the action deck, and now I want to show you an action card, if I can find one. So, in the competitive game, what's interesting about this is that... you see, most of these cards have all 3 phases on the back, but some cards do more but don't have other phases. So you can see this recruitment card here is a really good green card, but it's missing the blue and red phase. But that doesn't mean you can't do them. So a good example of this is that if this was my setup in the competitive game, and I'd played this recruitment card, I could still use my Tetsuo laser and my rocket strike in the red phase. I do still have a red phase, I just don't get any bonus, well, I just don't have any actions, other than ones that come from cards like this, or faction-specific actions. Alessandro, we are conscious AI, we are the singularity. I actually don't really know what the plot is. I had a quick scan through the codex, and it did show there was like a guy, and then he's like, I don't know, interfacing with the AI in some way. Like you can see here, look, they're like, I don't know, they've got... I should have read this. I apologize, I meant to. But as you can see, we're starting quite late because I was trying to figure the game out. But look, the AI like totally interface with him, and then he like joins them. And that's actually him on this sort of cover art from the game as well, which I thought was pretty neat. That's why I made sure to use that image in the thumbnail. And there you can see Tsukuyumi inside the crashed moon, right? That's the Great White Dragon. I mean, there's a huge amount of lore going on here. But there you go, see, we're now part of the AI. That face there, I think, is Amaterasu. And that's our guy. So, I mean, we are the AI, so I don't think we have to worry about, you know, Skynet turning on us. We are Skynet. Okay. Right, so we did... so the Tetsuo laser can deal 20 damage, so I think a good actual start for the Tetsuo laser would simply be to just blast these 2 guys here, because then I can move more people out. And the other good thing about it is that it doesn't hurt my people, and also it doesn't trigger counterattacks or anything like that. It's not a combat action. It's just deal 20 damage. In the competitive mode, it's 10 damage, but still. So we just blast these 2 guys here. And they're dead now. Get out of here. And now we can do... Let's... before we do the rocket attack, I guess let's do the old... let's do the movement, because we have to. So I'm going to fly my little drones over here, like that. Maybe we send all the drones, and then they can start spreading out. That's kind of my plan, is to just start spreading them out around the board edge, just flying them along and trying to capture as much as possible. And then I think these characters should actually all move up into here, because then they have more options, because they can't actually get out of this zone any other way. Except I need to leave enough points in there to capture this zone. Right, so that's 20. That's 30. So 35. Let's leave one little drone in there as well. Assault drone. So now that's 35, so we've matched the Moon Princess. And she's, by the way, her whole mechanic of moving around the outside of the moon here, that's completely unique to the cooperative version. That's not used in any other form of the game, as far as I'm aware. Great, now we've got 1 combat action, which is going to be, of course, to use a conquest in here. So, we remove this token, and put down our own token. Now, if this were a competitive game, so we've played this conquest card, which looks like this. If this were a competitive game now, all of our opponents would get to pick either counter-strike or retreat as their counter-attack. Instead, what happens with the Oni in the cooperative version is we check to see whether they gain any momentum. They actually call it building momentum and gaining momentum, depending on what you're looking at, which I find a bit confusing, because momentum is bad, and some cards say that I gain momentum, which I assume means that the Oni build momentum, but the language is a bit ambiguous. In any case, Momentum is this little track up here that we discussed earlier. So because I played a combat card in a territory in an area with an Oni, this goes up by 1. And because it moved onto a purple square, they're now going to play an Oni counterattack card. So hopefully this isn't anything too dreadfully bad. One-time effect. Mark one area of the Oni with a 2 victory point marker. The biggest possible disadvantage of the players. This area is now worth 2 victory points for the Oni from now on. Devastated areas are also worth 2 victory points that way. Okay, so devastated areas are usually worth no victory points at all. Alright, so, do I have a 2 victory point marker? I don't know what that token looks like. Why did I put these so far away? I don't know. I think they're actually in Full Moon Down. Yes, there are victory point markers in the expansion box. Oh, that's very far away. I don't know if we're going to use these tokens for anything. I didn't use them in my previous play, so this is a 2 victory point marker for all y'all. And I guess the most disadvantaged place for me is probably this one here, because it's very far away. So, let's make that. Actually, it might be this one, because this one is both radioactive and it's got a priority marker in it, and it's already owned by them. Yeah, so this is now worth 2 extra points. Yeah, I think that's probably right. Damn it! I talked myself into that. I don't like that. I don't like radiation. I'm gonna have to do something about that. Okay, so that's their counterattack resolved, and that's the whole round resolved. So the last thing to do is we're going to check the round goal, which says I have to control this zone, which I do. So I get 2 victory points, which are marked by taking 2 of my little samurai dealy bops here, putting them on the victory board. 2 points for me! But also, they only have 10 units at the end of the game, so they immediately receive 2 victory points, which is really bad. They do have 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't kill any, did I? I didn't kill a single one. So yeah, of course they do. Oh no, I did kill some? I killed 2. I did kill 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 2 points for the enemy. Great. This effect card is done. And I'm going to move on the round marker to round 2. And we're going to draw a new effect card. This is now... Oh, no, I'm not. This is now the beginning of round 2, and I'm going to draw 3 action cards and decide which one to play. Go away. This one. Alright, let's have a look and see what we got here. Something with lots of combat actions on it, please. Okay, yeah, we got some good stuff. Ooh, interesting, interesting. So I think this one is particularly useful if you're the kind of faction that gets a lot out of your faction effect. Use your faction effect 2 times. You may use the movement action of this phase in between. So that's really interesting. You can use your faction effect twice and move your units in between. You also get to rearrange the initiative markers. Kind of useless for me in this game, honestly. We got this one here, which says, special rules. Place any one of your or another player's units in the game. In doing so, follow the rules of placement of the respective faction. Then use your faction effect. Then you can draw and play up to 1 event card, or move the Moon Princess 1 area, or lower momentum by 1, or remove a priority marker. So that action I found to be really annoying in the cooperative mode, which I'm sure is deliberate. Because drawing and playing event cards is super cool and useful, but those other 3 things are also super cool and useful. So it's like a tough decision, for sure. And then move, so this double movement thing is move each of your units up to 2 areas. Note that you have to complete all of that movement before then doing up to 2 different combat actions. So this is a tempting one. I like the idea that we just get to spaff out a unit. Presumably whenever we want. And then there's this one here, which I think is probably the best one, maybe? Move up or down in the initiative order, but that's useless. But then we can draw and play up to 2 event cards, which I like. We get to spawn some units, and then we get to move everyone one area and execute up to 3 combat actions, which is pretty dope. 3 combat actions would be really useful. So it's definitely between these two, right? Oh, I didn't do my rocket attack last turn. I was definitely going to put the rocket in here just to stop them from coming back and taking this area. So yeah, so I don't know which one of these is actually better. Faction effect is definitely useful. I like using the Tetsuo laser to nuke people, but the 3 combat actions is pretty cringe. Also, this special rule of gaining 1 unit, the 3 production is better. Yeah, I think we go with card 28. I think it's marginally better, even though use your faction effect is pretty good. Okay. Here we go. Card 28. Flip it back over to the white side. And discard the other 2. Yeah, card 13. Unlucky card. Get out of here. Nobody likes you. Be gone! Okay, so now we get to reveal the Oni effect card and see what's going on this round. We got, each player has to remove 1 of their territory markers. God damn son of a bitch. I just got that! Place 1 random legendary Oni according to its placement rules. Oh, come on. Alright, here we go. You guys, at least you guys get to see a legendary Oni. That's neat for you, right? This is going a lot worse than my other game. I blame chat. Alright, 1 legendary Oni. Alright. Someone pick a number between 1 and 9. While I sit here and ruminate. So wrong. So fast. I think I might need to capture the center of the moon. Unless, of course, the Defiler appears, and then that's going to be very difficult to do. So hopefully we won't get the Defiler. Thanks, Pekka. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. I guess I should have said 1 to 8, because apparently there's only 8. Alright, what we got? The 3 Shadows! I've never seen this one before. That's cool. At the beginning of each round, place 2 of the smallest available Oni in each area with 1 of the 3 Shadows. Okay, so what's interesting about these guys is that there are indeed actually 3 of them. So there's 3 Shadow minis. So we'll be putting them all out. So maybe I will come to regret this. So they're just going to spawn 2 Oni each round. Place each of the 3 shadows adjacent to the home zones of the 3 players with the highest... Okay, so place 2 of the smallest available Oni with each one of them. If there are less than 3 players, place the remaining units in an area... If there are less than 3 players, place the remaining units in an area with a priority marker. Wait a minute. Place each of the 3 shadows adjacent to the home zones of the 3 players. So now here we have an ambiguity because the rocket attack clearly says areas with the rocket attack markers, no Oni may be placed in here, not through placement or attack. An Oni... Oh, not through replacement or attack. And Oni ignore the area when attacks are declared. Okay, I don't think this counts as either of those things, so it probably can be entered in here. So we'll get a shadow with 2 small Oni appearing in here then. And then also we get place, yeah, if there are less than 3 players, place the remaining units in an area with a priority marker. I don't like any of this. I don't think I'm ever going here. Quite frankly, I think that this is too dangerous. So let's just put them all in there. But we do also need to make sure that we kill these small Oni, because they've just spawned a whole bunch in here. And they're going to keep spawning this. So this is the key language we need to be paying attention to here, guys. Because, oh, you can't see them. Well, you can kind of see this whole horde over here. It's pretty bad. But the key language on the Three Shadows card here is that they place the smallest available Oni. So they're going to now be just spawning the largest available, or they're going to just keep getting bigger and bigger. So I have to keep killing these little guys, or else it's going to get out of hand. This is going horribly badly. I got to say, my other one was going better. How tough are these guys? Maybe we can just kill them. They're not super tough. So what we've got here is they're just 20, 20, 20. Once again, the special rules on these cards are ignored. If you had the standees, you wouldn't even need these cards. But they don't actually explain that in the rulebook, which is helpful. Okay, so now what's the next part of the card? Draw a Moon Princess card and execute it. God damn it. I don't remember her acting this much previously. Okay. The army. She's going to go clockwise around the moon, and she stops in the first non-moon area without Oni. Place 2 of the smallest available Oni in each of the 3 areas adjacent to the Moon Princess. She stops in the first moon area without Oni. So she's going clockwise. She's going to go 1. And that's the first known moon area without Oni, so she just stops there. God damn it. And now she's going to put out 6 small Oni. Well, except she's not, because I've run out of small Oni, I think. I've got 1 left. No, I've got 3 left. Oh god, this is dreadful. What happened? This is going horribly wrong. These 3 shadows are possibly actually the worst legendary one I've seen. They're much worse than the previous legendary one, for sure. This is horrible. There's so many Oni. This is indeed the curse of the stream in effect here. Look at this relentless assault. This is... I've literally got 2 medium Oni left, and that's it. And then we're on to the large Oni, who are massively problematic. And these live... Oh, God. Okay, I can bet... I've got 3 combat actions this round, and they're basically all going to be annihilates. I really wanted to capture areas, but quite frankly, I need to start killing these things, or it's going to be a major problem. That's just bad luck, I think, that I got the army card in the same round that I got the 3 shadows coming out. Oof. Right, so we're gonna... And then the round goal is destroy 1 legendary Oni this round. That isn't the Moon Princess. So at least that should be fairly easy. Here. I mean, I assume that one of the 3 shadows is sufficient. I suspect that it would probably like me to kill all 3, but I'm going to... I choose to interpret it as killing 1 is enough. Because that's how I want to interpret it. Okay, there's a lot of that. Like I said, there's a lot of sort of ambiguities. There was another example where she had to move clockwise around the board until she was in a spot adjacent to two areas containing my units, and I only had one area containing my units, and so I assumed that she would have just stopped, but it was very clear what she did, that she had to stop adjacent to two areas containing my units, and what she would do if she couldn't stop adjacent to any areas containing my units. But definitely not what she would do if there was just one area containing my units. And so it's kind of just one of those things where they definitely should have been way more specific, and they weren't. But that's sometimes the way of it. So, right. White phase. Moon Princess action first. Move the Moon Princess clockwise around the moon. She stops... Oh, this is the exact one I was literally just talking about. She stops as soon as she can attack units in at least two areas. If there are no areas with players' units, move her 3 steps instead and do something, right? So what happens if she can attack units in just one area, right? It doesn't say. Which I think is a bit of an oversight, quite frankly. But in this case, she can. So she actually has to move at least 1 space. So she can't stay where she is. But that's kind of also weird because... Oh no, because she'll just move 1 up to here. And then she'll attack these 3. Because now she's adjacent to 2 of my units. Perform Oni attack... Perform... Yeah. In the 3 adjacent areas, execute Oni attacks. Okay. So I guess I get to choose the order of this. And which one do I want to do first? Hey, do you know what? I don't think that she gets to put any units in here because of the rocket attack. Oh, no Oni may be placed here. Not through replacement or attacks. This is confusing to me because replacement is part of the Moon Princess counterattack, and I ignore that anyway. I guess if I was playing with other players, though, they wouldn't ignore it. Hmm. No Oni may be placed here. That's very clear. I kind of wish it just said no Oni may be placed here. The parentheses are what make this card confusing. Because the implication is no Oni may be placed here except by means other than replacement or attack. I'm just gonna ignore that part and just say no Oni may be placed here. There we go. Because I would like to have a fighting chance, please. But yeah, this is still not good. And I'm still going to allow the 3 shadows thing because I don't know why. Honestly, if I prevent the Moon Princess attack, I probably can't put the 3 shadows in there either, which means that they would just wind up in here or here. Hmm. I think then for the sake of consistency, let's put all of the 3 shadows in the same area. And assume that the rocket attack means no Oni may be placed here. And in which case, I'm going to dump them all in here. Rather than in this other area. There we go. Now I need to figure out what to do about that horrifying mess, because I really need to resolve this. Yeah, do you know what, Pekka? I would have rather had the Defiler, the giant whale. You've been so generous this evening. I guess things have to even out somehow. Okay, so this is the Moon Princess's Annihilation. Okay, so I guess we'll start with and this is where the Bushido is going to come into its own, I think. So let's start by resolving this one, I think. I want to resolve this one first. And it doesn't say they are all technically resolved simultaneously. And this is actually probably going to be a good chance for you guys to see how the combat really sort of functions as well. So they're going to produce an Oni attack, which is both a conquest and an annihilation. And so they're going to deal to me damage equal to 2 small Oni, which is 20 damage. And we're also going to try and do a conquest, but they only have conquest 10. And I have conquest 15 because I've got a shield drone and 2 assault drones. So they actually can't do the conquest. And we check this before anyone is killed. In fact, everything happens simultaneously, and we resolve the entire of the attack card, and this is the same in the competitive mode. We resolve the entire attack card before any units are removed. Of course, typically you wouldn't have to look at conquest points and consider annihilation, because in the vast majority of cases they can't happen simultaneously. But even in this case, so I get to pick 2 of these responses, and I'm going to pick the top one, number 1, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. And then I think I'll pick the second one as well, Counter-Strike, where I get to attack back. Escape the Oni is also pretty useful. The defender may move all of their units by 1, but not the units that are currently being attacked. So that's kind of really interesting, actually. Yeah. And then we've also got well, I like Counter-Strike because it lets me kill people, and quite frankly, there's way too many Oni on this board. So the top one here is called Protect or Defend. And what you're going to pay attention to here is your player board, where you're going to have a protect function and a defend function. Except some factions just don't have a defend function. They just don't get to use it. So they couldn't do anything with that. A good example is the Oni. They don't have a defend function, so they'll never pick defend as a counter attack option. Some factions also don't have protect, or their version of protect is less good. Cybersamurai's version of protect is awesome. It's this. It's basically double all of your health. So what I'm going to do, for the purposes of deciding which units are killed, I'm going to double the health of all of my units, which means that fewer will die. I forgot the Moon Princess is here. Oh god. I'm going to die. Everyone's going to die. Maybe there's no point, actually, to this at all. Okay, so never mind. Of course they get to put out a conquest marker. They've got way more than enough conquest points, because the Moon Princess gives them 45, which is significantly more than my 15. Okay, let me have a think here. Now, this renders my rebuttal, my counterattack almost useless, because the way damage works is this. So, if I had for example, let's just say we're not using Protect. And let's say it was the 2 small Oni against the 3 drones. So the 2 small Oni will deal 20 damage, and I will decide how to deal that out to the 3 drones as best I see fit. In this case, there wouldn't really be much option other than killing a shield drone and an attack drone, which totals 20 hit points. But let's say I did use Protect, okay? Now the shield drone has 30 hit points, and the attack drones both have 10. But I still get to decide how to meter out that 20 damage. I could put it all on the shield drone. It doesn't kill the shield drone or the attack drones. Essentially, the attack is a whiff. So you can pretty much decide how to meter out that damage as you want. Now, in terms of the and so that's really important, and that's the exact same in the competitive version as well. But some elements allow you to choose how you distribute the damage, so that is a function that can come into the game as well. But it's breaking the core rules, which are to say the defender chooses how to place the damage. Now, what's interesting here is that the damage, any damage I do in retaliation, which would be 20, is just going to be soaked by the Moon Princess, because the instructions for dealing damage to the Oni are very simple. It's just remove as few models as possible. Other than that, you can decide how you want to do it. So I think all of these things are going to die, and there's not really anything I can do about it. Because of the presence of the Moon Priestess. Which makes me think that maybe I should take the escape option and scarp her with these guys here. Before they all die too. I think that might be the best course of action. What are my other retaliate options here? I've also got Diminishment, which moves the Moon Priestess up to 3 spaces. So I could just move her out of here and then resolve this combat without her present. Yeah, okay, so here's my new plan. Okay, for the Oni attack here, what we're going to do is we're going to pick Diminishment, move the Moon Priestess up to 3 spaces in any direction. So she's going to go 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to pick Public Outcry. The defender may now immediately spend 1 production. And I'm going to produce a attack drone in here. And then we sort out. We can sort out the damage as well. I know I moved the Moon Priestess away, but like I said, the whole thing is resolved simultaneously. So I'm going to take so much damage. What did I say? Like 30, 55 damage. I have a total of 25 hit points, so these 3 are all destroyed. And now that 1 space I was trying to secure isn't even mine anymore. And we're going to go over here and do this combat, which is going to work the exact same way. They're going to try to conquest first, but I moved the Moon Priestess. So now that I don't think they have enough conquest points anymore. They've got a medium Oni, who's worth 20. They've got 2 medium Onis. So that's 40 plus a small Oni. They've got 45. Uh-oh, I think they do have enough, actually. I've got 2 Cybersamurai, a 2.1 and a 2.2. And I've also got the Cyberoid. I've got 40. Damn it! They've beaten me. This is dreadful. This is going horribly. Oh my god. Okay, so they take control. And now they're going to attack. They've got 40. They've got 50 damage. So let's see if we can use our protection counterattack Bushido moves to make their day miserable. So we've got 50 damage coming in. So what we can do here is if we take protection, everybody doubles their hit points, right? So we can decide how to distribute that damage. So I think what we do is we take protection and we kill off Cybersamurai 2.1, which reduces the 50 to 30, And then we can put the 30 on the Cyberoid, and his 40 soaks it. So we lose one Cyber Samurai 2.1. And then in retaliation, we deal 45 damage as well. So let's do that. So he's dead. Womp womp. And we deal 45 damage back. And they try to remove as few figures as possible. But they're going to lose 2 figures no matter what. Because they've got 20 hit points on the medium Onis and 10 on the small Oni. So they either lose a small and a medium Oni or 2 medium Onis. Obviously, if it were an actual player, they'd lose the small and the medium. But the instructions say that here, always distribute the damage against the Oni so that as few Oni as possible are destroyed. But it doesn't say so that the weakest are destroyed first or anything like that. So basically I'm taking off the 2 mediums. I'm taking them at their word. I need all the help I can get. Don't judge me. Exactly, Difter. This is fine. I'm not worried. This is a disaster. Okay. So now that's just the Moon Princess card resolved. And we get to do our white phase. Oh my god. Okay. I think we should just produce a samurai. No, wait. I think we should just move and do a combat action. Yeah. So I think in the interests of attempting to undo some of the horrible damage that's been done here, let's move this Cyber Samurai over here. We can capture this area very easily because there's no one left in it. And let's move these 2 attack drones, one over here and one over here as well. Let's move these guys up to. Actually, do you know? Let's. We have. What do we have on the back of this card? We do have production and movement. So let's move everybody out. We're going to need to. And then for our final attack, I think we're going to do, while we can, we'll make our final attack option here a... How am I feeling about this? Basically, if I do a... I think I'm going to wait on this one, actually, and I'll tell you guys why in a minute. But I'm going to do my conquest in here. And because there's no Oni, there's no change to the momentum. So that's a good thing. Because basically we don't want any momentum building. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So now it's time for the black phase. And the Oni are going to do 2 more attacks. Alright, so now in this case they're ignoring this zone because of the rocket attack. So they control both of these zones. They control this zone. So now their top priorities are this zone and any of these zones. And they're all kind of equal priority, actually, I think. Let us flip this back over and check. Areas without Oni territory markers, moon areas only, areas where the... Yeah, so these are just what they'll attack. So now they're looking for areas where they have to move the fewest Oni possible. Which is not this one, because the Cyber Samurai has added 10 conquest points. So they're going to have to move at least 1 Oni in there. Well, to be fair, they could move 1 medium Oni, so I don't know. But I don't see why they wouldn't just start taking these outside ones. I suppose it's up to me, really. Actually, to be fair, they probably start by taking this one, because they don't have to move any Oni, thanks to the Moon Princess. So their first attack is probably just that. And because there was no... None of my units were present. They're going to put out the smallest available Oni, which is this medium Oni in there as well. Great. Good. Good. Now, the next area that they're going to attack is going to be basically any of these other areas. So, I guess I'm going to pick something that kind of suits me. I would like to get Oni out of my way. I like the idea actually of this guy wandering off over here to conquer this area, so let's do that. Because that gives me another empty space here to conquer. And because there was no one there, now there's 2 Oni. Shit. Maybe I should rethink this. I need to kill off some of these small Oni. I can move in here. And then they'll probably just kill me. We'll probably kill each other. Okay. Yeah, let's move him in here. And then he's going to do a little Oni attack against my Cybersamurai. So he's got 10 conquest points, as do I, so I lose the area because it's a tie. And now he's going to use his annihilation. He's 20 across the board. We know that my Cybersamurai is 10, 15. So I don't think there's much I can do about this, because even if I double my hit points, I'm still going to die. I could use the defense matrix. But that's kind of the same as Oh no, Counter-Strike wouldn't actually kill him. So, yeah, let's use the defense matrix. The defense matrix says that you can trigger one of your uplinks. You can trigger your Blue Canada or Rocket Attack Market, or use Tetsuo in this area. So let's use Tetsuo! 20 damage! Blam! Pfft. Good. Good riddance. I'm also dead, though. And I've got one more option here. So let's do Public Outcry and respawn our character in here. That gives us 1 production, which we can immediately spend to bring her back. Okay. This feels better, I guess. I've still lost that area, but at least there are more Oni appearing on the board. Although, to be fair, I don't know how well this is gonna go. But that's the end of the Oni attacks for now. So notice that the momentum only increases when I attack. It doesn't increase when I kill them in response to their attacks and things like that. I have to play combat cards in order for the momentum to go up. So we can do our things in any order. So I think I could lower the momentum by 1, but I'm not really too worried about that right now. I want to get more things out on the board. So I'm quite tempted to actually draw and play up to 2 event cards. I mean, stocking up is kind of useless because it's just 1 extra production. I think I'm going to top... Whatever I draw here, though, if I want to play a card, I'm going to have to play that card. So let's start actually by producing units, because we can do these in literally any order. So we'll start with the production. So we've got 3 points of production plus plus 1 additional drone. So I don't know. I'm thinking Cyboid, Cybersamurai, and shield drone, attack drone, shield drone, attack drone. Shield drone, attack drone. The shield drones are basically, they have this ability where they can just like shield things, so like they can always be assigned damage even if the enemies have a function that would circumvent that, which is cool, I guess. Um, but the attack drones do damage, and I need to kill things. Talk myself into it. So there's my free attack drone from my Amaterasu AI, and then we spent the rest of our points on a big guy and a little person. A smaller samurai. There we go. So they're all going to pop out here. And now I'm thinking maybe I take the change position card and use that to just start moving people around. Try to capture some territory as best I can. So yeah, let's use... Oh, you can draw and play up to 2 event cards. So am I interpreting this wrong? I think that means I can draw 2 and play 2. I actually think it might be draw 2 and play 2. Quick rules check. So you all following luck at home? Oh. Good night, Haggers. Thanks for watching. I will try to win so that you can wake up to something good. The player can draw X event cards. Additionally, they may play X event cards. Okay. Well, that makes that a no-brainer. Let's take change position, and let's draw one blind from the top, see what it is, and then decide if we want one of those on it. What we got here? Radioactive. Mark any area property with the property radioactive. I never want to play this. This is terrible for me. Okay, well, obviously I shouldn't have top-decked. Let's take change position as well. And that's replaced, I think, after we're done drawing cards. I'm actually not sure. I didn't do much with the event cards in the last game because I never really got the right action cards. No, you replace them immediately. So I probably should have taken change position first and then revealed the next one. So this is called Unsteady Ground. And this allows you to rotate the tiles on the board. Turn any area tile in any direction. Turn an area tile in any direction. Now, this can't be applied to the moon areas, which is important because the moon areas are actually 3 tiles. There's 2 that are 3 attached together and 1 in the middle. So it would be very difficult to rotate anyway. But I'm now going to play up to 2 cards. I'm going to play change position. And I'm going to move everyone, or I'm going to move people up to 1 space. I'm going to send one little droid over here on his own. I'm going to send this one over there like that. I'm going to send this person one over here, and this person one over here, and this person one into here. Actually, no, let's send these 2 into the middle, actually. And keep the Cybersamurai over here on his own. And these guys are all going to come out as well, I think. Maybe one of them should wait there. How many combat actions do I have? 3? I'm not really too worried about conquering this territory right now because I feel like I could probably conquer it at the end. So let's do that. And now we've only got one thing left to do, which is our red actions. And our red actions are, of course, move everybody up to 1 area and then execute 3 combat actions. So I think, how are the Cybersamurai equipped to take out a little Oni? I think here's my plan. I'm going to move this big guy over here, and this big guy into here. And that's it. And now, before I do my 3 combat actions, I'm going to do 2 red actions. I'm going to keep the rocket attack. Actually, I might even move the rocket attack into here. The reason for that is because all the blockades. Like, unless the only Oni with flying I've ever seen somehow comes out, Touch wood. I think this should actually be okay. I don't think they can get into... Although, to be fair, if the queen moves up here, she can just spawn them in there directly, can't she? Moon Princess, sorry. So yeah, let's keep the rocket attack there, so they just keep ignoring this area. I basically... It's worth like 2 points to them at the end of the game. I really don't want them to have it. Oh, I forgot about the goal, though. Sugar. Yeah, do you know what? I need to send these two in here instead of into the middle. Yeah. Damn it. Okay. We need to try and kill one of those bad people. The legendary Onis. We need those 2 points. We need them. Okay. Here is a close-up of our current situation, which is really not that great. I hope those 2 cyberoids can actually do something useful in that space. I should probably spend a bit more time working out the maths of this situation, but I like to live life by the seat of my pants, so I'm just not going to do that. So now I've got, I'm going to use my Tetsuo here, space laser, to just blast like into this space, dealing 20 damage. Which I guess actually just kills one of the 3 shadows, because that's everything else is, otherwise it kills 2 small ones, and those are against the rules. We can't remove 2 small ones. We have to remove one of the 3 legendary shadows. And honestly, this is a good thing, because what's their rule? At the beginning of each round, no. Place 2 of the smallest available Oni in each area with one of the 3 shadows. Okay, so actually, because they're all in the same area, because of the stupid way this board is in the solo mode, it's still only going to be 2 Oni, but that's still too many. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use our special card. Target acquisition. So this is an annihilation action, and we increase the damage we do by 20 because of the Tetsuo laser. So it's essentially, we're murdering everybody and then also using the Tetsuo laser. So the cyboids do 20 damage each. So this is a total of 60 damage in this space, which means we're going to kill the other 2 shadows as well as 2 little ones. So I think that's pretty good. I would have liked to do more. Note that also this is once per round, so I can't play this again this round. Some combat cards be like that, once per round. But the good news is that gets all 3 shadows off the board, so they're not going to be spawning any new ones. We've got some little ones to spawn later. And for my other 2 combat actions, I think... but that does, I'll tell you what that does do, is it increases momentum by 2. Which is bad, because we're going to get a counterattack card and a legendary Oni appearing on the board. I should have thought about this maybe. Permanent effect. Each Oni has plus 10 hit points against you. Cool! Let's put that there so I remember it. Ooh, Pekka, do you want to pick another number? It's 1 and 7 now. If you find the Defiler, that would be fine by me, because I can basically ignore it, I think. And that would be fine. I'd be okay with ignoring it. 3! 1, 2, 3. Alright. fingers crossed for the Defiler. Ideally not the Merchant. I don't want the Merchant. The Gambler. Another one I've never seen. Throw a dice when the Gambler enters the game and at the beginning of each round. Okay, this game did not come with a dice. I'm not joking. It didn't come with a die. I'm going to have to go get one. Throw a die, and also it should say throw a die. When the Gambler enters the game and at the beginning of each round. The effect remains in effect for the whole round until the Gambler is destroyed. You throw the die to determine the new effect each round. All players lose 1 unit of their choice, plus 1 momentum for every attack this round. There is no goal this round. Each player loses 1 combat action. Oh god, no goal this round would suck. Basically, I've already achieved it, but it's only scored at the end of the round. So if she pops into existence and then rolls a 3, I'll be upset. Each player loses 1 combat action, black phase. All of the players' units are massive and lose flying. I'd be okay with that because I'm done moving. The player with the lowest initiative has to draw 1 counter card and execute it. That's also fine. Upon destruction, plus 2 momentum. I don't like that. Placement with 2 medium Oni in the center of the moon. Okay. Becca, that is hilarious. I guess we can't use her though because we don't have any dice. So, you know, that's a shame that we can't do that. There's the miniature there. Take a look. She's pretty cool. I mean, she's very wee. So she pops into existence here with 2 medium Oni. Okay, so I need to find her card. What's her stats like? She's probably not too bad. Oh yeah, there's some errata there. They got the stats for the merchant wrong on this card, so I had to errata it here. I'm gonna post it. Okay, so she's it does say with 2 medium Oni. Yeah, that's different to her card, but I presume we use the placement rules. These cards only come with Rise of the Moon Princess, which is this pack, the solo pack. Whereas these cards are required to use the characters in the competitive mode. But we, like I said, we only have these cards out to look at the stats and nothing else. So. Huh. Alright. So I guess I'll go get a die. Be right back, everyone. Don't go anywhere. I do actually have a die pretty close by. So this is actually out here because it's misprinted. So note that this is not a divided by symbol. This is a 2 because it's not the 3. So just ignore that line if that comes up. Here we go. Show me something good, please. Where is it? 4! What's that? What's the 4? Oh no! The cameras can't focus on anything! Each player loses 1 combat action. Shit! That sucks. I mean, they all suck. I would have pretty much reacted that way no matter what. And to be fair, that's better than the goal is cancelled, because that's 2 victory points and I need those. Okay, so I guess I only have 1 more combat action. So I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna poop out a this in here, and that's it. Damn it. All right. Yeah, die not included. Oh, this guff, no dice. They have she even uses it in the competitive version. Like she needs to roll a die no matter which version of the game you're playing. Um, I guess they just assumed that you would have a die, which is of course a completely reasonable assumption. I can't imagine someone backed this with the stretch goals, the miniatures version. I mean, you'd have to be some kind of really hardcore Eurogamer. Like, to be fair, I mean, even a hardcore Eurogamer might have something like Marco Polo or Todi Wakan, which uses dice but doesn't actually roll any dice. Um, but uh, but yeah, like I suppose this is exactly the kind of sort of war game, territory control war game that someone who is so Euro they don't own any games with dice might buy. But they should have chucked a die in. I don't know what that would have added to the cost of the game, but there's so much stuff in this game. Um, it's really funny that it requires a die. It doesn't have one. But you'd only have this stuff if you have the stretch goals from this campaign. These legendary Oni don't, I think, come in the core set. I don't even know if this is available at retail, actually. Can you buy this? Can someone let me know, actually? Or, actually, well, I can check. Let me check real quick, guys. I would be really bummed out to be playing this in front of you all if you can't actually just go out and buy a copy if you like the look of it. But sometimes, I mean, I suppose this might be available on the secondary market. Wow. No, it does look like it is acquirable. Um, it is in Europe at least, not in the UK. Yeah, there's a lot of copies, but they might not be English. But, yeah, there's a lot of copies in Europe. Let's check. Let's check US. Sorry for the distraction. It's the end of round 2 anyway. Just one more round and the game's over. Oh my god. I don't think this is easier. I'm going to look up Tsukuyumi Full Moon Down. I don't see anywhere in the States where it's in stock, though. Doesn't mean there isn't a place. I'm doing a very sort of cursory glance here on the aggregate sites, so you never know. There could well be copies somewhere. And there might be copies on BGG as well. But, interesting. Not easily acquirable. Apparently, they've got a pre-order up on the Kickstarter page. Yeah, so I mean, to be fair, this was probably delivered about 6 weeks ago, I think. Maybe even less than that, maybe about a month ago. So it's entirely possible there's a plan to bring it to retail that hasn't been put into action yet. And those shops that are selling it are actually backers of the retail pledge from the Kickstarter. In any case, 2 points for killing all of those guys. The 3 shadows, they're dead. Move on to round 3, and here we go again. Alright, we're going to start with 3 new action cards. So get out of here, number 28. 2, 3. And what do we got? Show me something good. Card number 1! Quite literally. Produce 5. Everyone can move, and then 2 combat actions. Could be useful. What do we got here? Oh, wow. Move each of your units up to 1. Execute 2 combat actions. Reduce with a value of 1. Move everyone 1. Oh. Attention, you may move in between the 2 combat phases. Interesting. That's a good card. I'm very tempted by that. 4 combat actions. That could be really clutch. What do we got here? Special rule. During your turn, you may utilize the units of one other player during the movement and combat as if they were your own. Well, there are no other players. Get out of here. I'm taking this card number 5. Get me all those combat actions. That might just give us a chance. Alright. This card is out of play. And now it's time for the Oni effect card. Don't move the Moon Princess again, for God's sake. Effect. In this round, no event... What was the effect of the last round? Oh yeah, I had to remove a territory marker. I did do that. In this round, no event actions may be used to move the Moon Princess or remove priority markers. I guess that's fine. Hopefully that's fine. To be fair, I don't have that power. Well, I do actually in the white phase. I can do that. Place one of the smallest available Oni in each area with only a single other Oni. Moreover, place one of the smallest available Oni in each Oni territory without any Oni. Okay, so... Well, that's fine, because we're going to get 2 small Oni, one in here and one in here. And then one in here, one in here, and one in here. So I can choose the order. How do I want to choose this order? I think I want to choose it, so I put 2 small ones in here and here. And then I don't have any small ones left, so we have to put out the medium ones. So we'll go medium, medium, and medium. Alright. And the round goal is that the players have to have at least 2 counter cards. Okay, well that's interesting because I do have 1 counter card already, which I had forgotten about. Fortunately, it's not come into play yet, but each Oni has plus 10 hit points against you. That sucks, though. Okay. Well, for once, the effect card was fairly, I don't know, quick to resolve. So here's the beginning of the white phase, beginning with the Moon Princess. Alright, reinforcement. I don't like that. Move the Moon Princess clockwise around the moon. She stops in the first non-moon area without Oni. She does not count, right? So she moves clockwise like this. And then I guess she stops because there's no Oni here. Non-moon area without Oni, yeah. Place one of the largest available Oni in each of the 3 areas adjacent to the Moon Priestess. Oh, for God's sake. Alright, well... I mean, this is actually kind of okay, I think, because what they're not doing is a lot of attacking. They already did a lot of that. So now we're putting out these big boys. In areas that are just slightly off camera. Thanks, camera. Wow, big ones. So, one in each area like that. Wow. Almost all the Oni are out on the board. This is super scary. But to be honest, if they just want to stay over there and reinforce that position, I'm kind of fine with it. So now it's my turn in the white phase. So you may play up to 1 event card, draw and play up to 1 event card. Produce units, move units. Alright, let's have a think here. If I don't change the board state, what are they going to do in the black phase when they attack? They're going to continue to ignore this because it has the rocket attack in it. Which means that either they're going to move out and conquer these territories out here, which is kind of fine. I don't know why I've put these down here when they literally don't conquer the moon ones. I've just put them down because I was replacing my own. And it's force of habit. Having said that, that's because in the competitive game, there is no need for them to conquer the moon spaces. As I said, there is a case to be made for them wanting to conquer the moon spaces in the solo mode, and there's no clarification on that I can find in the rules. So I'm just assuming that they don't. Essentially, the idea is that these Tsukuyumi spaces count as Oni spaces for the purposes of deploying Oni. Any spaces they conquer with their territory markers in the competitive mode also count as Tsukuyumi spaces. Therefore, Oni can be deployed anywhere on the moon and anywhere in a space that they've conquered like this, as well as any that happen to have the Tsukuyumi symbol like this. Because they deploy differently in the solo mode, i.e. they tend to be deployed by the moon princess around her, or by effects on cards, the Tsukuyumi spaces are less important for deployment. And so, but these are important only because of they need to control 4 in the solo mode to score at the end of the game. Currently they have 5, so it's not so important. But if I'd somehow managed to keep the outer ring relatively clear, then controlling the inner ones could have been much more important. But like I said, there's not really any clarity on that, so maybe Grey Fox Games need to put that in the errata. Okay, so I'm trying to think here. Am I going to try to clear out this area here? This is if I gain control of this, it's a 3-point swing. So they're going to lose 2 points. And I'm going to gain... Oh, they've got so much health, though. And I'm going to gain 1 point. At the moment, I've got 40... They've got 5 in there, so I could just take control of that area. It's going to build momentum and cause a retaliation, but that's fine. But what I want to try and do is gain the areas where there aren't any enemies first. So lots of movement is good. So let me think here. In the black phase, they're probably just going to wander over here then and conquer like this space and this space, or like, well, here's the thing. If I conquer this now, the first thing they're going to do in the black phase is try and conquer it back because it's got a priority token in it. So I don't really want to do that one now. So I say now if I conquer this space, I am going to create momentum. I mean, I've got 4 combat actions coming in, which is almost certainly going to generate a lot of momentum. And actually, there's only 5 spaces, so realistically, I'm possibly going to put them onto that 3 points. So, the effect doesn't prevent the reduction of momentum. So I think, here's the plan actually. I start by doing a conquest in this space. Ah. Which triggers 1 momentum because there's an Oni there. So this moves up to here, which means that we're going to get... And I've actually moved the counter so it's just above the spaces so you guys can see what's underneath. But it's purple, so we're going to get an Oni counter card. And because this is the last round of the game, we get these special purple ones, which are way worse. So hopefully it's not too bad. One-time effect. Place as many Oni territory markers in unconquered areas as there are players in the game. Wow. Okay, great. I guess let's put one out here. That's just one, because there's one. That could have been so much worse. I've seen much worse. And the reason I've done that is because now what I'd like to do is actually use my second action to trigger the blue effect to reduce the momentum by 1. And because it's moved off of a purple space, I can get rid of 1 counter card. I do need 2 counter cards on the table at the end of the game, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be triggering at least 2 more before the end of this round anyway, but I can get rid of this one, and I hate this one, so that's good. I say I need to. I need to if I want the round goal, and I do want the round goal. So, that's the white phase over and done with. So now we're going to head over to the Oni attack phase. So the question is, do I want this Oni to attack me here? Well, he won't, actually, because he can't conquer that space. He doesn't have enough things, so he's not even interested in attacking me. Yep. So actually, really, they're just going to wander off over here and do this, aren't they? Because there's no unconquered priority spaces that they're interested in, except maybe this one, which they can't get to because of the rocket attack. So I think we're just going to get this one wandering over here and putting down a Conquer, which also brings out another Oni, which is going to be a large Oni. Oh my god. No, it's the last medium Oni. But then we're going to get this one moving into here, conquering this one, and generating a large Oni. I mean, I've done that deliberately to leave this one empty, basically. So that gives me a bit more breathing room. Alright. So, let's use our final moves intelligently to try and get as many points as possible. The question is... Oh god, I forgot to randomize the gambler. Shit. Whoa, please don't be something that would have totally changed what's happened so far. 6. The player with the lowest initiative has to draw 1 counter card and execute it. Well, I guess I'll do that now. I guess we have to draw a last round counter card as well. Blam. One-time effect. Each player has to remove 1 of their territory markers from an area. Okay, well that's actually fine. I guess it would have had to have been this one because that's the only one I actually had. Cool. Maybe none of the last round ones are actually permanent effects. In which case I might be screwed because I need to get... I mean, I don't actually really know what this means. It just says the players have to have... The players have at least 2 counter cards. In effect, or played against me, because I've already had 2 played against me. Okay, that's fine though. We've resolved that business with the game. And... By the way, if anyone actually recognizes this die, you can name the Kickstarter this die is from, then you get super bonus nerdy points. Obviously, it's a misprint, so they actually sent me a replacement, so this is now just sitting there. Okay, so here's what we've got. We've got a bunch of movement. So I think what we should do is bring out... we should do the production first and bring out a couple more drones in here. It doesn't really matter which ones necessarily because I'm not really interested in doing too much killing. So we'll bring out 2 of the shield drones. Their primary purpose is to be there and then capture it. We want to try to capture, I think, as many empty spaces as possible so we don't trigger too much momentum. But I think we conquer... We've got 4 combat actions. So I think we conquer this one last because conquering this one is going to trigger 1 momentum, which is a counter card. And actually, if we use the Tetsuo laser, we can kill both of these guys, which gives us another empty space. So... That's pretty good, actually. I think there's a lot of space for us to capture on the board. I don't know if we're actually going to be able to swing enough points, especially if we can't get this round goal. And I'm thinking here, I don't actually really have any plans to trigger any more of their counters. But the thing is, if there were no more cards in this deck that have permanent effects, I was never going to be able to get this round goal anyway. So I suppose I'll just have to be fine with that. So here's how we'll do it. So we're going to start with the first one where we get to move 2 spaces. So we get to move everyone 1 space, and then we can trigger the 2 combat actions. So I think we're just going to go... Yeah, we've got 4 combat actions, and there's 4 empty territories. So I think we just capture all of these empty territories for points, with the exception of this one here, which we're going to do last, because that's going to trigger a counter. So let's go 1 over to here. This guy's going to go 1 in there, and this person's going to go 1 in there, I guess. And that's it, really. Then we get 2 combat actions. So we'll just grab our points here. We'll just capture this space here and this space here, I think. And yeah, for our final action, then let's just capture this one for no other reason. We can leave the rocket attack there. We can just use it there again if we want. For no other reason than to, I don't know, stop our enemies from having it, I suppose. And then our final one is to use Conquest in here. So essentially we get to take this one, replace it with one of ours because we have more Conquest points than them. It's only worth 1 point to us, but it's worth 2 points to the enemy, so this is a pretty big swing. But what this does mean is that now we're going to go up 1 point here on this momentum track. So our final counter card is drawn, which is... One-time effect, you gain 3 momentum. Well, shit. See, and this is the card I didn't really understand. So you gain 3 momentum. I presume what this really means is the Oni build 3 momentum. Right? What I also don't really understand is, does that mean I have to now trigger each of these 3 spots? Because that essentially means 1 counter card has become 2 counter cards and a legendary Oni. I'm really not sure about this card or how to interpret it. But in any case, I'm just going to go and trigger it the way I understand, which is gain 3 more momentum. So, one-time effect. Draw and execute 1 Moon Princess action. Okay, great. This seems grossly unfair, but never mind. I mean, I don't think I was going to win anyway. But hang on, let me just calculate the board state here. If I don't achieve this goal, then the endgame score would have been 2, 3, 4. Yeah, actually, the Oni only have 4 points. No, 5, 6. They only have 6 points, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I would have won by 3. But let's find out what the Moon Princess is doing. Alright, so she's going clockwise around the board. She stops as soon as she can attack units in at least 2 areas. And then, okay, so she's going around to here. And now she's going to execute Oni attacks in all 3 areas. So I guess we'll start here. So I guess she's going to move in an Oni so that she can get enough conquest to take it over. And then she'll put out one of these tokens. Well, she won't put out a token, actually, because it doesn't even matter. It's the moon. So she doesn't really care about that anyway. Well, she wants to take... Yeah, so anyway. So that. And then I guess she just tries to kill me, basically. Does she not? I don't... How do I parse this? Bear with me one moment, please, folks. Here's a cool shot of the Moon Princess trying her best to kill me in the final roundup. Leave me alone, Moon Princess. I just want to be left alone to take over your moon. Please. Yeah, so she doesn't actually care about that at all. This area talks, I don't own it, so it's not worth any points. But I think her Oni will... So I think this one Oni will basically move and try and do an action. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure what's going to happen here actually is just this Oni is going to move into here to conquer it. Presumably they can conquer this. Oh, it says they have no interest in Tsukuyumi areas. Unconquered Tsukuyumi areas, yeah. It says all Oni in the adjacent areas are going to perform Oni attack actions. Yeah, part of the problem with this is that the rules they give for moving the Oni, in all 4 examples, none of them involve the Moon Princess. Sorry for the delay, just I want to make sure I'm using this correctly. I probably am not. No matter what interpretation I get here, this is probably... I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, because she's going to shut down this area anyway. She automatically controls all 3 areas. So, really, she's just going to send a little guy, like, So the real question is, because it says here that the Moon Princess and all Oni in the 3 adjacent areas execute Oni attacks. The real question is, she can't do anything from there. I mean, I guess she can attack this guy, but I don't know if it really matters. She's shutting this down anyway, so that doesn't really matter, but we'll resolve it anyway. So the real question is, does this guy move in here and execute an Oni attack there? I guess he does. I think that's how it's... I think that's what happens. I really don't know. But that's fine. Let's resolve this one first then. So this little guy wanders in here. He's going to do an Oni attack, which begins with a conquest, so that's removed. This isn't put out because it doesn't matter. And then annihilation, so they're going to deal 20 damage to my poor Cybersamurai, who's only got 10 hit points, so I ain't no saving her. So I do have Bushido though, so let's have a think here and see if I can't move the princess. What I can do, I guess, is trigger... I mean, does it really matter now? I'm just having a look at the board state. I still have... Have I used all my attacks? I have, haven't I? I've got nothing left to do other than gain this 3 momentum and continue to parse this stuff. So I think... Well, with that in mind, what I'll do, I think, is I'll take... damn it. It's a shame this character's gonna die. Because if I could get one more unit in here, she couldn't actually conquer it, which would be good. But as it stands, I don't think there's anything I can do about it. She's just gonna kill that poor cyberoid. I suppose I can kill her, and she's worth a point at the end of the game. So, let's, we'll take, for our retaliation, we'll just take escape from the Oni. We can take public outcry, but it doesn't matter at this stage. So we'll move this Cybersamurai in here to help defend this position here. She's going to be killed, and I guess we get 1 point so of production as our second counter. So I'll just put her back in there. And then she'll attack in here. She's got 35 conquest points to my 40. So I'm going to lose this, and she's going to put out that. And she's going to deal 35 damage. But I can take protection and counter-strike, so I soak the 35 on him, and then I kill her with the remaining damage. So he's dead. I think I forgot to count her, actually, in the final score tally-up. Anyway, I think I've just lost. I think I've swung the game, because we're about to get another legendary Oni coming out. Oh. Pekka, give me a number. Go on. Decide my fate, if you're still watching. Man, this 3 momentum card seems really rough. I guess this is what I get for doing all of my combats on the final round. Oh. So that's her card, and that's resolved. Man, all of these final round ones are one-time effects as well. So none of them are going to help me trigger my goal, I think. Number 1! And then you have to go to bed. Fair enough. It is... Oh, Skybound. The big dragony guy. Well... So, he is play... Oh, God. So, he spawns in here and deletes my territory marker. That's his whole thing. So Skybound, basically it says here, when he enters an area, immediately... Oh, when he enters an area, do you think that's the same as spawn? Is entry the same as place? Skybound is placed in an area with a priority marker that is closest to the home zone of the player with the lowest initiative. So he should really be placed in here, but because of the rocket attack, I've put him in here, which is the next closest priority marker. I'm going to say, actually, that enters an area is movement, not the same as placed. But if I win by a point, we'll know that it requires clarification. He's brutal, though. He's got this... he comes with his own attack card as well. And I have no idea if you're supposed to use it in the solo mode. But it doesn't say that you shouldn't, so I guess that you do. But his card is that he devastates areas. He just turns them into devastation points. But look, he's 40, 40, 40, which is nuts. Yeah, thanks, Pekka. I'm gonna need it. Have a good sleep and a wonderful week. Oh, I forgot this is worth... Did I forget that's worth 2 points to them? No, I don't know. Maybe I counted that. Anyway, I think I've probably lost this. Let's move on to the final counterattack card. This card counts as -2 victory points for the player's permanent effect. Oh, look at that. There is a permanent on the last turn counterattack card. So, with that, I believe that's the end of the game. So I think it's all over, and all that's left to do is count up the score. I'm pretty sure I've lost horribly. So, let's do it. Right. I did not make the round goal. If I'd left that one about them having health out, I actually would have, and I don't think it would have made any difference either. But as it stands, I've got 1 point for each conquered area, which is just 3 now. 3 points, and 7 points. I've got 7 points. The Oni have 2 here. They've got 2 for the legendary Onis. They've got 2 points here, which gives them 6. And then they've got 2 more points up there, so they've got 8. So it's actually come out 7 to 8, possibly 6 to 8. So it's again really, really close, although I didn't win. But yeah, those last round momentum cards are... Oh no, -2. I didn't count that, I don't think. So I'm actually on 5 to 8. Oh, that's a pretty big gap, actually. That's huge. So... yeah, I don't know. I feel like this... I feel like this card, actually, is really imbalanced in solo mode. Particularly because if you look at 3 momentum in a one-player game, it means that like so much stuff triggers. Whereas in a game with 2 players, less stuff triggers, and it becomes increasingly inconsequential the more players there are. So I think that there are probably... I don't have the examples of the other ones. I was going to show you guys the other account ones. But in any case, I feel like it's been reasonably close every time I've played this. And I do feel like you get a good feel for the faction as well. So I think if you're wanting to give all the factions a try, this would be a really good way to figure out how the different factions work. But I know you get to get all the models out at the mountain board here, and this looks pretty cool. Putting them all out and having a big old fight. I wouldn't want to play this for one more round. This definitely, at the end of round 3, this is definitely going a lot worse than the game I played where I did 4 rounds. But yeah, it's a cool cool little thing. I mean, I'm very glad that they included this solo mode so I could give it a try and sort of learn the game and try it out and figure out how everything works. I do wish that they had put more clarity into it. There's obviously a lot of ambiguities as I highlighted as we played along. I still don't know if I'm getting the Moon Princess's cards 100% right. It's how the Oni attack is very clear when it's not on behalf of the Moon Princess, because you just do 2 attacks and you just look at the whole board, you identify their priority spots, and then they just go and attack those spots. However, when she comes in here and then you trigger Oni attacks in the 3 adjacent spots, does that mean that it's like the invert of a normal Oni attack? Which is to say that you just look at these spots and then move Oni into them to attack those spots? Or do the Oni in those spots move out to attack adjacent priority spots if they can reach them? Because the Oni can only move 2 spaces, of course. Which is how I interpreted it. But yeah, also you gain 3 momentum. I mean, must be move up 3 on the track, right? But how much damage did I do here? I did I think I didn't do enough to kill her. I think I only did 30. I think she probably should have still been on the board anyway. Anyway, I hope that's been a reasonably useful insight into how this game plays solo and how to put together the solo mode. You're going to get a lot of different play out of these different factions, and I'm quite keen to try it with another faction and see how that works out. But like I said, it's quite useful to sort of learn all the different factions, but I think what I'm most keen to do is try the game with a whole cadre of people, see how it works. Yeah. I do wish that they had more tools in the box to help you sort it out and get the game to the table. I think this game was begging for a big box sort of solution, and I think it's a bummer they didn't provide anything like that. I like these kinds of games where it's like, here's a ton of different factions, they're all asymmetrical, you can pick a different faction and kind of play around with it. I think if you knew the game pretty well, like especially the core rules, I reckon it's probably, I think the box says 3 hours. I think that if you weren't doing a teach, you could probably play it in less time than that, if everyone knows the game really well. But I suppose it depends how thinky everyone's being. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to have sort of like a big box and take it around and have everyone pick a team and sort of see what comes up. I think you could get a lot of replayability out of it because all the different interactions between the different factions would be really, really different, which is really cool and really interesting. I'd be keen to see how that would function as well. But now I've got no more questions in chat, so I think I'm going to call it a night. I hope that you've enjoyed the stream. And if you're watching this in the future, thank you for coming along and checking it out. I hope that it was mostly correct. Like I said, it's Difter's just come back. He's like, "Did you win?" No, Difter, I did not. I either lost by 1 point or 3. I'm not sure, quite frankly. But the point is, I do know that I didn't win, so I'm happy to leave it there. Unfortunately, the the 3 momentum card at the end there just really killed it for me. And then I also got this one as well. Like that one card turning into 2 cards and a unique Oni is super rough. Like it more than doubles its impact, which I think is terrible. Like I said, especially if you'd, do you know something else I just noticed? This is clearly a misprint. This is supposed to be 1 track. And look, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? Surely it should go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And that's what I mean. When there's mistakes like this on some of the stuff, that's why stuff like this feels bad. You want a really tight product, and I appreciate the ambition of this product, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. I would have liked maybe I wouldn't have minded a bit less content if they'd put a bit more time into really refining what they had. Having said that, I'm not, I had fun. I had fun going through this process. Twice now I've done it. Both times I've quite enjoyed it. So, would I take it down to play it again on my own? Probably not, though. Maybe if you guys are interested in seeing it. Like I said, I think it's a good way to sort of put some of the... It's a good way to encourage yourself to learn the game and help learn the game if you're planning to bring it in front of other people. I think that it really functions well as a tool, but I don't think the solo mode feels quite refined enough to make the ending feel like really really good, like I said, I thought I might have that one in the bag, but it just didn't. And I said I just didn't. I mean, it just sort of turned around right at the end there, which was okay. Like, that's not what bothers me. You know, I'm quite happy to have these sort of like random effects that sort of keep you on your toes like that. Like I said, that felt like a bit too much. We actually wound up from one counterattack card drawing 2 more counterattacks and a legendary Oni, and actually executing a princess action card as well, which feels like a lot. And all it would take really is for this card to be like, you know, gain 1 momentum or 2 momentum, or gain like player count momentum or something like that, you know, whatever the intention of the card is. Presumably it's to move you more towards the 3 points at the end of the track here, you know, so that you run the risk of giving away those 3 points to the Oni if you hadn't thought about that. Of course, I had thought about that, so even if I drew this card, it wouldn't happen. But, you know, everything else just, it was so much worse anyway. And then on top of that, I also drew the -2 points card, which is effectively almost the same as a 3-point swing in their favor anyway. So it just doesn't feel like, I don't know, maybe if I played again, I'd just take that one out. I wouldn't mind playing with it with 3 players. I think it'd be fine with 3 players. But because of the 3 players have a lot less effects on the momentum track, so it's much less important. And that's what I mean, I guess one of the things to bear in mind about this solo mode is that it's not even really a solo mode. It's the 1-player version of the cooperative mode, and so it's sort of a variation of a variation of the main game. So it really is very niche. And I guess it was not developed with the pandemic in mind. I presume that their first experience of this game for a lot of people was not intended to be solo mode. Of course, I don't know how many people acquired this in this recent Kickstarter and how many people had a copy from before. I know a lot of people, or I suspect some people might have gotten it through the first Kickstarter, or I think they've had the first Kickstarter product available for sale as well at Essen and things like that. But in any case, I'm certainly keen to try the multiplayer version. And, you know, if you guys want to see more of this version of the game, more than happy to play it for you. So you can always leave a comment down below to let me know if that's what you'd like to see, or leave a like on the video if you want to see that. We can do a different faction next time and see how it goes, if it goes any better. And, you know, if you want to have more of a say in it, you can always back the channel on Patreon. And get a vote on stuff we play every month. Have a bit more influence over that. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, or if it's the future, I hope you're having a good time, and that the future is going well. But I just want to say thanks so much to all my wonderful Patreons who support the channel, without whom we wouldn't have had a better table camera for this, that is to say the top-down camera, a wonderful new top-down camera for this live stream. Thanks everybody so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now. We'll roll the credits as the spooky music stops. Bye-bye.